1 month. That is exactly how long it took my ex-husband Marcus to replace me with his so-called dream woman. He live-streamed their $1 million wedding to show the world he had finally upgraded from me. But when the camera zoomed in on his blushing bride, I did not cry. I laughed until my sides hurt, because I knew exactly who she was, and I knew exactly how she was going to destroy him. Before I tell you how I turned their perfect day into a perfect nightmare, let me know where you are watching from. Hit that like and subscribe button if you have ever sat back and watched karma do its dirty work. My name is Tiana, and I am 32 years old. To my ex-husband and his family, I am nothing more than a boring, penny-pinching data entry clerk who ruined their fun. They think I sit in a gray cubicle staring at spreadsheets all day for $40,000 a year. They have no idea that my office is actually on the 45th floor of a glass tower in downtown Chicago. They do not know that the name on my door says Senior Forensic Accountant. They certainly do not know that my job is hunting down hidden assets for the FBI and auditing Fortune 500 companies for fraud. I trace money for a living. I find the secrets people try to bury in offshore accounts and shell companies. I can look at a bank statement and tell you if a man is having an affair or if a CEO is embezzling. I am a bloodhound in a silk blouse. But for 5 years of marriage, I played small. I let Marcus think he was the big provider with his sales director title and his leased luxury cars. I let his mother Wanda treat me like I was lucky to even be in their presence. I paid off their debts quietly. I fixed their credit scores in the dark, and in return they called me cheap. They called me boring. And eventually, Marcus called me his past. It was a Tuesday afternoon when my phone buzzed on my mahogany desk. I was in the middle of unraveling a Ponzi scheme involving a fake cryptocurrency, but the notification made me pause. It was a Facebook alert. Marcus is live. I swiveled my chair around to face the floor-to-ceiling window overlooking the city skyline. I should have ignored it. I should have gone back to tracking the $3 million missing from my client's ledger. But curiosity is an occupational hazard for me. I picked up my phone and tapped the screen. The video quality was crystal clear. Drone shots swept over rolling vineyards and golden sunlight. Napa Valley. He had actually done it. He had booked the vineyard he always told me was too expensive for our anniversary. But of course, he could afford it now. He had liquidated our joint savings during the divorce settlement, claiming he needed a fresh start. The camera cut to the ceremony. There were hundreds of guests. I recognized cousins who had borrowed money from me and never paid it back. I saw friends who had stopped calling me the day the divorce papers were signed. And there at the altar stood Marcus. He was wearing a custom tuxedo that I knew cost more than his monthly alimony payments. He looked handsome. I will give him that. Marcus always knew how to package himself. He grabbed the microphone and his voice boomed through the speakers of my phone, filling my quiet office. "Thank you all for coming to witness true love," he said, flashing that charming smile that used to make my knees weak. For a long time, I thought marriage was a trap. I thought it was about budgets and restrictions and being told no. He paused for dramatic effect, and a few people in the crowd chuckled. I knew exactly who he was talking about. I was the one who said no to the boat we could not afford. I was the one who said no to the second vacation home when we had not paid off the first one. But then I met Sienna. He continued gesturing down the aisle. A woman who understands that life is meant to be lived, not audited. A woman who matches my ambition. A woman who brings class and elegance to the family name. Finally, I have a partner who is not afraid to shine. I felt a flash of heat rise up my neck. Not audited. That was a direct hit. He was mocking my prudence while spending money he did not have. But I kept watching. I needed to see this train wreck through to the end. Then came the mother of the groom. Wanda took the microphone, her sequin dress straining at the seams. She looked like she had won the lottery. She probably thought she had. "My beautiful boy," she sobbed theatrically. "You finally have the queen you deserve." I looked at Sienna and I saw a daughter. A real daughter. Not someone who judges us. Not someone who hides her money and cries poverty while we struggle. I took a sip of my sparkling water. Hides her money. That was rich, coming from a woman whose mortgage I had secretly paid for 3 years so she would not end up on the street. I never told her I paid it. I just let her believe the bank had made a mistake in her favor because I did not want to embarrass her. That was my mistake. Kindness is wasted on people who feed on greed. "And look at this ring," Wanda shrieked, grabbing the bride's hand and shoving it toward the camera. "A real diamond, a family heirloom quality stone. This is what respect looks like." I zoomed in on the screen. The ring was massive, a pear-shaped diamond surrounded by a halo of smaller stones. It sparkled violently under the California sun. I recognized that ring. Not because it was an heirloom, but because I was the one who bought it. 4 years ago, I found it at an estate sale. I bought it as an investment piece, intending to sell it when the market went up. I kept it in the safe at our house. When I moved out, Marcus claimed he could not find it. He said I must have misplaced it. Now there it was on the finger of his dream woman. He had stolen it from me to give to her. That was the moment the sadness evaporated. That was the moment the professional investigator took over. If he stole the ring, what else had he stolen? And more importantly, who was this woman willing to wear stolen goods? The music swelled. The bride turned fully toward the camera. The veil was lifted. I froze. I did not blink. I did not breathe. I just stared at the screen of my iPhone. Tiana was breathtaking. Skin like polished obsidian, high cheekbones that could cut glass, and eyes that seemed to hold 1,000 secrets. She wiped a delicate tear from her eye with a silk handkerchief. She looked at Marcus with total adoration. It was a performance worthy of an Oscar. But I had seen that face before. I did not know her as Tiana. And she certainly was not the daughter of an Atlanta real estate mogul, as Marcus had bragged in his captions for the last 2 months. I minimized the Facebook window and opened my secure work server. My fingers flew across the keyboard. I navigated through folders marked confidential and FBI liaison. I scrolled past tax evasion and money laundering until I found the folder labeled interstate romance fraud. I clicked on a subfolder. There was a mugshot from 5 years ago. Different hair color. She was blonde then, but the bone structure was identical. The small scar above the left eyebrow was identical. Name: Chantel Williams, also known as Vanessa King, also known as Dominique Devereaux, and now, apparently, Tiana. Status: active investigation, suspected of defrauding 3 high-net-worth men in Florida, Texas, and Nevada. Modus operandi: she targets men with high egos and liquid assets, encourages them to invest in fake business ventures with her father, and then vanishes when the accounts are drained. I looked back at the live stream. Tiana was kissing Marcus. She was kissing a man who was already drowning in debt, but pretending to be a millionaire. She thought she had caught a whale, but she had actually caught a sardine wrapped in gold foil. And Marcus thought he had caught a trophy wife, but he had actually caught a federal fugitive. I leaned back in my ergonomic leather chair and let out a laugh that startled my assistant passing by the glass door. "Oh, Marcus," I whispered to the screen. "You wanted a woman who matches your ambition. You got her. You wanted someone who does not count pennies. You definitely got her." I watched as they cut the cake. It was a 6-tier monstrosity that probably cost $5,000. I watched Wanda stuffing cake into her mouth, oblivious to the fact that the diamond on her new daughter-in-law's finger was evidence in a grand larceny case. I could have called the police right then. I could have called the Napa Valley Sheriff and had them crash the wedding. It would have been satisfying to see Tiana walked out in handcuffs in her white dress. But that would be too easy. That would be too quick. Marcus had humiliated me. Wanda had stolen from me. They needed to learn a lesson that a simple arrest would not teach them. They needed to lose everything. They needed to feel the financial ruin they had tried to inflict on me. And Tiana, or Chantel, or whatever she was calling herself today, she had made the mistake of stepping into my territory. She was a predator, yes, but she was a sloppy one. She did not know that Marcus's ex-wife was the best forensic accountant in Chicago. She did not know that I knew Marcus's finances better than he did. I closed the live stream just as the first dance began. I opened a new file on my computer. I named it Project Wedding Gift. I stood up and walked to the large safe concealed behind a panel in my office wall. I spun the dial and pulled the heavy door open. Inside were a stack of files on the most dangerous financial criminals in the country. I pulled out the thick file on Chantel Williams. I flipped through the pages. Photos of her previous victims. Men who lost their homes, their retirement funds, their dignity. "Welcome to the family." "Chantel," I said, tapping her photo. "You think you are the hunter here, but you just walked into a cage." My phone buzzed again. It was a text from Connor, my former brother-in-law. He was the only white person in the family married to Marcus's sister Ebony. He was also the only one with a brain. The text read, "Tiana, are you seeing this? Something is wrong. She demanded the wedding planner be paid in cash. And I saw her passport in her purse earlier." The name did not match the invitation. I smiled. Connor was sharp. He was always the outsider, just like me. He saw things the others ignored because they were too blinded by the flash of fake wealth. I texted back, "Sit tight, Connor. Don't say a word to them. Just enjoy the open bar. I will handle the rest." I sat back down and picked up my pen. The wedding was over. The marriage had begun. And the honeymoon was about to be interrupted by a reality check that would bounce harder than Marcus's checks. I looked at the calendar. Marcus usually came back from his trips broke and needing a loan. He would come to me. He always did. He would try to bully me or guilt me into giving him money to cover the extravagant costs he had just incurred. But this time, I would be ready. I picked up the phone and dialed my contact at the bank, the one who handled distressed assets and bad debt. "Hello, David." I said, my voice smooth and professional. "You know that portfolio of high-risk personal loans you were trying to offload, the ones attached to Marcus Davis? Yes, I am interested. I want to buy them all, every single cent of debt he has. I want to own it." I hung up the phone. Marcus wanted a woman who takes charge. Well, he just got one. He was about to find out that his boring, penny-pinching ex-wife now owned his car, his condo, and his future. And as for his dream woman, I was going to let her bleed him dry first. I was going to let her take every last dime Wanda had hidden under her mattress. I was going to let her convince them to mortgage their souls. And then when there was nothing left but dust and regret, I would introduce myself to Tiana. I turned back to the window, watching the sun set over Chicago. The game had changed. They were playing checkers with plastic pieces. I was playing chess with live ammunition. The wedding was beautiful, Marcus. I really hope you enjoyed the cake. It cost you your life. It had been exactly 7 days since the wedding of the century. 7 days of silence. 7 days where I allowed myself to simply exist in my apartment without looking over my shoulder. My apartment was my sanctuary. It was a sleek modern unit in the Loop with floor-to-ceiling windows that offered a view of the Chicago River. I bought it with the bonus I received after exposing a massive embezzlement scheme at a pharmaceutical company 3 years ago. The deed was in my name. The down payment came from my personal account. Marcus had never paid a dime toward the mortgage. He barely even knew where the cleaning supplies were kept. I was sitting at my kitchen island reviewing a case file on a corrupt hedge fund manager when my phone rang. The screen displayed the name I had hesitated to delete. Marcus. I took a sip of my espresso and swiped answer. I put him on speaker and set the phone down on the marble counter. I did not say hello. I just waited. "Tiana, we need to talk," Marcus said. His voice had that tone he always used when he was trying to sound authoritative but was actually just desperate. It was the voice of a man who was used to faking it until he made it. "I am listening, Marcus," I said, calm and cold. "I am back from the honeymoon," he said. "Napa was incredible. You really missed out on a lifestyle upgrade, Tiana, but that is not why I'm calling. Sienna and I have been discussing our portfolio. We are making some big moves, serious power moves, and we realized that we need to liquidate some stagnant assets." I suppressed a laugh. Stagnant assets. Marcus did not have assets. He had liabilities. He had a leased BMW and a closet full of designer suits he bought on credit. "What does that have to do with me?" I asked. "Well," Marcus continued, clearing his throat, "we need to sell the apartment, the one you are living in. Sienna is launching a luxury spa chain. It is going to be global. Dubai, London, New York. But we need liquidity for the initial franchise fees. Since I paid the deposit on that place with my emotional support during your career building years, it is only fair we split the equity. 50-50. I stared at the phone. The audacity was almost impressive. It was breathtaking. Marcus, I said slowly, let me explain something to you in terms you might understand. I bought this apartment 2 years ago. The down payment was $150,000. That money came from a wire transfer from my personal savings account. Your name is not on the deed. Your name is not on the mortgage. The only thing you contributed to this apartment was the dirt from your shoes and the headache you gave me every night we were married, Tiana. He shouted, losing his cool facade. What is yours is mine. That is how the law works. Actually, that is not how the law works when you signed a prenup that specifically separated premarital assets and any property acquired individually during the marriage, I reminded him. You signed it because you thought your sales commission would be higher than my salary. You thought you were protecting your money from me. Remember? There was silence on the other line. I could hear him breathing hard. I could almost hear the gears turning in his head, trying to find a new angle to manipulate me. Sienna needs this. Tiana, he pleaded, switching tactics to guilt. She has a vision. She is a visionary. Do you want to be the reason a black woman-owned business fails before it even starts? Are you that jealous? Are you that bitter that you would block our success just to spite me? I am not blocking anything, Marcus, I said. I am just protecting my property. If Sienna is such a visionary, tell her to manifest the capital. Or better yet, ask her wealthy real estate mogul father for a loan. Surely a man of his stature has spare change for a spa chain. Marcus hung up. The line went dead. I smiled and took another sip of espresso. He was desperate. He was already feeling the pressure. Sienna was squeezing him for cash he did not have, and he was scrambling. But the peace did not last long. Less than an hour later, my buzzer rang. I ignored it. I lived in a secure building with a doorman. Anyone who belonged here had a key. Anyone who did not belong here had to be announced. Then my cell phone rang again. It was the front desk. Miss Williams, there is a woman here to see you, the concierge said, sounding uncomfortable. She says she is your mother-in-law. She is quite insistent. She is causing a bit of a scene in the lobby. Let her up, David, I said. Let us get this over with. I knew exactly why Wanda was here. Marcus had failed to get the money, so he had sent his attack dog. Wanda had always been his enforcer. She was the one who bullied me into paying his credit card bills. She was the one who guilted me into buying him the car he could not afford. I unlocked my front door and left it ajar, then walked back to the kitchen. I wanted her to walk in. I wanted her to see the space she thought she was entitled to. 5 minutes later, the door flew open. Wanda marched in like she owned the place. She was wearing a brightly colored kaftan and carrying a knockoff Louis Vuitton bag that I knew she bought out of a trunk in a parking lot. You ungrateful little heifer, she screamed before she even fully entered the room. I leaned against the counter, crossing my arms. Hello, Wanda, to what do I owe the pleasure? Do not play smart with me. She spat, looking around the apartment with a mixture of greed and disgust. Look at this place. All this glass and cold furniture. It has no soul. Just like you. You sit up here in your ivory tower while my son is trying to build a legacy. If his legacy requires selling my home, then it is not much of a legacy, Wanda, I said. I did not come here for the house, she said, waving her hand dismissively. Marcus can handle his own business. I came here for what is mine. I came here for the family heirlooms you stole. I raised an eyebrow. Heirlooms. You know what I'm talking about, she said. Stepping closer, her finger pointed in my face. The silver tea set, the one my grandmother brought over from Mississippi, the one that has been in our family for 4 generations. You took it when you moved out. You thief. You are jealous because Marcus found a woman who appreciates tradition, a woman who knows how to treat a mother-in-law. You want to keep our history because you have none of your own. I stared at her, the silver tea set. I remembered the tea set vividly. 3 years ago, Wanda had called me crying, saying she needed money for her electric bill. She said she had nothing of value left except this old tea set she found in her attic. She begged me to buy it from her. I gave her $500 for it. I knew it was not worth $500. I knew it was silver-plated junk she probably picked up at a garage sale in the 90s. But I gave her the money because I did not want her sitting in the dark. And now she wanted it back. She probably wanted to sell it again, or maybe give it to Sienna as a wedding gift to prove how wealthy and established their family was. You mean the tea set I bought from you, Wanda? I asked. The one you sold me to pay your ComEd bill. I never sold it. She lied, her eyes wide and unblinking. I let you hold it for safekeeping. And now I want it back. Give it to me, Tiana, or I will call the police and tell them you stole it. I looked at her. I looked at this woman who had made my life miserable for 5 years. This woman who had called me cheap and boring while spending my money. This woman who was now standing in my kitchen threatening me over a piece of junk. And suddenly I felt very calm. You want the tea set? I asked. Yes, I want the tea set, she hissed. It belongs to the family. It belongs to Sienna now. Fine, I said. I walked past her into the living room. I went to the display cabinet in the corner. On the bottom shelf sat the tea set. It was tarnished. It was dented. It was ugly. I picked up the teapot. It felt heavy in my hand. I carried it back to the kitchen. Wanda held out her hands, a triumphant smirk plastered on her face. She thought she had won. She thought I was folding. I walked right past her. I walked to the balcony door and slid it open. The wind from the lake whipped into the apartment cold and sharp. What are you doing? Wanda asked, her voice rising in pitch. I stepped out onto the balcony. We were on the 30th floor. Below us was a concrete courtyard that belonged to the building management. You said this was trash, right? I said, turning to look at her. You told Marcus I was trash. You told everyone at the wedding I was a penny pincher who collected garbage. Give that to me, Wanda shrieked, rushing toward the door. I did not hesitate. I did not blink. I wound up my arm and hurled the teapot over the railing. I watched it fall. It tumbled end over end, glinting in the sunlight. It hit the concrete below with a loud metallic clang that echoed up the side of the building. Then I picked up the sugar bowl. I threw that too. Then the creamer. One by one, I tossed her precious family heirlooms off the balcony. Wanda screamed. She actually screamed. She ran to the railing and looked down, clutching her chest like she was having a heart attack. You crazy witch, she wailed. You destroyed it. You destroyed my heritage. I dusted off my hands and walked back inside, leaving the balcony door open. It is just plated copper. Wanda, I said, my voice flat. It is not silver. It never was. Just like you. Just like your son. It is fake. It is cheap. And now it is where it belongs. In the trash. Wanda turned around, her face purple with rage. She looked like she wanted to hit me. But something in my eyes stopped her. She saw something she had never seen before. She saw that I was not afraid of her. She saw that I was dangerous. You will pay for this, she spat. Sienna will ruin you. She has lawyers. She has power. You are nothing. You are just a glorified secretary. Get out of my house, I said. Wanda huffed, grabbing her knockoff bag. She marched to the door, muttering curses under her breath. I am going down there to get it, she yelled. And do not think we are done. This is war, Tiana. She slammed the door so hard the walls shook. I stood in the silence of my apartment. My heart was beating a little faster, but I did not feel fear. I felt a surge of adrenaline. I walked to the balcony and looked down. I could see Wanda running across the courtyard below. She looked like a frantic ant. She was gathering the dented pieces of the tea set, stuffing them into her bag. She looked ridiculous. I smiled. She had taken the bait. She had taken the teapot. What Wanda did not know, what Marcus did not know, and what Sienna definitely did not know, was that the teapot was not empty. Last night, after I finished my research on Sienna, I had prepared a little insurance policy. I knew they would come for me. I knew they would try to take something. So I took a high-frequency listening device, the kind used by private investigators and intelligence agencies, and I secured it inside the hollow base of the teapot. It was small waterproof and had a battery life of 3 months. It transmitted audio directly to a secure server accessible only by me. Wanda thought she was retrieving a family heirloom. She thought she was saving her dignity. But she was actually carrying a Trojan horse right into the heart of the enemy camp. I went back to my desk and opened my laptop. I pulled up a new program. A black screen with a green audio waveline. Connect, I typed. The line jumped. Static at first, then the sound of rustling fabric. Then heavy breathing. Then a car door slamming. I cannot believe that heifer Wanda's voice came through crystal clear. She is crazy. She threw it off the balcony. Marcus, can you believe it? I leaned back in my chair and put on my noise-canceling headphones. The tea set was going home. It was going to sit on their dining table. It was going to be in the room when they discussed their finances. It was going to be in the room when Tiana made her calls. Go ahead. Want to take it to Tiana? I whispered. Show her your victory. I adjusted the volume. The show was just beginning. Sunday afternoon rolled around with the humidity that makes your hair frizz the second you step outside. But I was not outside. I was sitting in my climate-controlled home office with the blinds drawn and a glass of iced tea sweating on a coaster. On my computer screen was a visualizer of audio waves bouncing in real time. The signal was strong. The connection was stable. The silver tea set was live. I adjusted my noise-canceling headphones and leaned back. I was not invited to the family barbecue. I never was. Even when we were married, Wanda made sure I felt like a guest in her backyard. But today, I was the guest of honor. They just did not know it. The audio was crisp. I could hear the sizzle of meat on the grill. I could hear the clinking of ice in glasses. I could hear Wanda's voice cutting through the air like a serrated knife. Look at this spread, she crowed. This is how royalty eats. Sienna baby, you really outdid yourself with these truffles. I did not even know you could put truffles in potato salad. Only the best for us. Mama Wanda Sienna's voice replied smooth like silk and twice as slippery. My father always says that if you feed the body luxury, the mind will follow. I rolled my eyes. Truffles and potato salad. That was probably $50 worth of fungus shaved over $5 worth of potatoes. It was a perfect metaphor for their entire existence. Marcus's voice boomed next. He sounded drunk. Drunk on expensive scotch, and even more drunk on his own ego. To the future, he toasted, to building empires, to leaving the small thinking behind. I knew that was a dig at me. Small thinking, prudence, savings, investments that did not vanish into thin air. The conversation shifted as plates were cleared. I heard chairs scraping against the patio concrete. The tea set must have been sitting right in the center of the table, because the voices were suddenly intimate. So Marcus Sienna said, her tone shifting from hostess to business partner. I spoke to Daddy this morning. He is holding the slot open for us on the Metaverse real estate project. But he cannot hold it forever. The investors from Dubai are circling. I sat up straight. Metaverse real estate. It was the classic vaporware scam. Selling digital land that did not exist for money that was very real. It was page 1 of the modern grifter's handbook. How much time do we have? Marcus asked, anxiety creeping into his bluster. 48 hours, Sienna replied. We need the liquidity now, babe. If we miss this window, we miss the ground floor. We are talking about a 10,000% return in 6 months. Imagine. We could buy a private island by Christmas. I typed notes rapidly. She was creating urgency. She was promising unrealistic returns. She was leveraging a fake authority figure. It was textbook fraud. I can move some things around, Marcus said. I have the equity in the condo. The condo was leased. He had no equity. And I have my 401k, he continued. It is sitting there doing nothing. Just slow growth. Do not touch the 401k, I whispered at the screen. That was the only thing he had left from 10 years of working. It was the only money I had not been able to touch in the divorce because he fought tooth and nail to keep it. That is smart, Sienna encouraged him. Retirement accounts are for people who plan to work until they are 60. We are going to be retired in 3 years, Marcus. Why let the bank make money off your cash when you could be flipping it? Cash out. We will put it all into the Metaverse land deal. I checked Marcus's file on my second monitor. His 401k had about $200,000 in it. If he cashed it out early, he would take a massive tax penalty, but he would still have enough to feed Sienna's scam. She was going to clean him out. Wait a minute. The voice was deep, hesitant, and undeniably white. It was Connor, my former brother-in-law. He was married to Ebony Marcus's younger sister. Connor was a structural engineer. He was logical, quiet, and the only person in that family who ever thanked me for paying a bill. What is it? Connor Marcus snapped. Do not kill the vibe, man. I am just trying to understand the logistics here, Connor said slowly. Sienna, you are asking him to liquidate his retirement for digital land. But I have been trying to add you to the family insurance policy since you and Marcus got married. The paperwork keeps getting kicked back. Ebony sighed loudly. Here we go. Connor, why do you always have to be so technical? Because it matters, Connor insisted. The insurance company says they cannot verify your identity, Sienna. You do not have a social security number on file. And when I asked you about it last week, you said you use an international tax ID. But you were born in Georgia, right? The audio waves spiked. The tension at that table was palpable. I have dual citizenship, Sienna said quickly, her voice sharpening. My father does business globally. We operate under different jurisdictions to maximize tax efficiency. You would not understand, Connor. It is high-level finance. I do understand finance, Connor countered. And I also understand that the wedding planner called me yesterday. She was looking for Marcus, but I picked up. She said you paid the final $20,000 balance in cash. From a gym bag. I stopped typing. Connor was good. He was paying attention. So what if she did? Marcus shouted. Cash is king, Connor. Not everyone likes to leave a paper trail for the government to snoop through. Sienna moves in circles where privacy is paramount. It is suspicious, Marcus, Connor said, his voice raising. No social security number. Cash payments. Now she wants you to drain your 401k for a project with no prospectus and no paper trail. I looked up this metaverse company. The website was registered 3 days ago. Enough. Wanda's voice cut through the noise like a whip. I leaned in closer to the speaker. This was it. This was the moment where they could have saved themselves. This was the moment where a mother should have protected her son. Connor, you are out of line, Wanda spat. You come into my house, you eat my food, and you insult my daughter-in-law. You are jealous. That is what this is. Jealous. Connor sounded baffled. Wanda, I am trying to help him. No, you are trying to keep us down, Wanda screamed. You cannot stand to see a black family rising up. You cannot stand to see Marcus succeeding with a beautiful black woman by his side. You want him to be small. You want him to be struggling so you can feel superior with your little engineering job. I shook my head. Wanda always played the victim card when logic failed her. She weaponized her identity to shield her greed. That has nothing to do with this, Connor, said, sounding hurt. This is about math. It is about red flags. You do not understand our culture. Ebony chimed in, jumping on the bandwagon. You do not understand how we support each other, Connor. We invest in family. We trust family. You are so obsessed with rules and regulations. That is why you will never be rich. Sienna is trying to elevate us, and you are trying to drag us down. I am trying to stop him from losing his life savings, Connor yelled. Get out, Marcus roared. Get out of my house, Connor. If you cannot respect my wife and you cannot respect my vision, then you are not welcome at this table. There was the sound of a chair being shoved back violently. Fine, Connor said. Fine, I am leaving. But when this blows up, Marcus, do not say I did not warn you, and do not come asking me for money to fix it. I heard footsteps stomping away, then a door slamming. Silence descended on the patio. Then Sienna spoke, her voice soft and trembling. I am so sorry, Marcus. I did not mean to cause trouble. Maybe we should not do the deal. I do not want to tear your family apart. Oh, baby, no, Marcus cooed, immediately soothing the predator. Do not listen to him. He is small-minded. He does not see the big picture. We are doing this. I am going to the bank first thing tomorrow morning. I am cashing out the 401k. We are building this empire. And I will help, Wanda added. I will sign the papers for the house, Marcus. You can use the equity. I trust you. I trust Sienna. We are going to show them all. I took off my headphones. They were all in. They were pushing their chips into the center of the table. Marcus was draining his retirement. Wanda was mortgaging her house. They were handing everything over to a woman whose name was not even Tiana. It was tragic, really, but it was also perfect. I picked up my cell phone. I scrolled to Jada's contact. Jada was the best shark in Chicago legal waters. She handled my high-stakes acquisitions. I pressed call. Tiana Jada answered on the first ring. It is Sunday. This better be good. It is better than good, Jada, I said, staring at the cityscape. It is showtime. What is the play, she asked. Operation Empty Pockets, I said. Marcus is about to liquidate his assets. He is going to be desperate for cash flow to cover his day-to-day while he waits for his imaginary millions to roll in. His credit cards are maxed. His car lease is up for renewal next month. And Jada prompted. I want his debt, I said. I want all of it. Contact the credit agencies. Contact the bank holding his car note. Contact the private lenders he uses to float his lifestyle. Buy it all. Use the shell corporation, the one under the name Nemesis Holdings. You want to be his creditor? Jada asked, a smile audible in her voice. I do not just want to be his creditor, I said. I want to be the reason he cannot sleep at night. I want to own the shirt on his back. When he misses a payment, I want to be the one who decides if he walks or crawls. Consider it done, Jada said. I will have the paperwork ready by morning. Do we foreclose immediately? No, I said, watching the sun reflect off the river. Not yet. Let Tiana take the cash first. Let her drain them dry. When he has nothing left but debt, that is when we knock on the door. I hung up the phone. I looked at the file on my desk. Chantel Williams. She was good. She had isolated the victim. She had created urgency. She had neutralized the skepticism. She was about to score $250,000 from Marcus and another $100,000 from Wanda's house. But she did not know that the money she was stealing was the only thing keeping the wolves at bay. And once that money was gone, she would be left in a cage with a very angry, very broke man and his mother. And I would be standing outside holding the key. I put my headphones back on. I love you, Marcus Tiana was saying. I love you too, baby, Marcus replied. We are going to be legends. You certainly are, I whispered. You are going to be a cautionary tale. Monday morning started with a notification on my secure server. It was a credit inquiry alert. Marcus Davis was attempting to take out a home equity line of credit on a property in the Southside suburbs. I knew that address by heart. It was Wanda's house, the house I had saved from foreclosure 3 years ago. The house she had sworn was her legacy for her grandchildren. And now she was signing it over to fund a digital land grab with a woman she met a month ago. I watched the digital trail from my office. I could see everything happening in real time because I still had administrative access to Wanda's financial profile. I never removed myself because I knew this day would come. They were at First National Bank. I could imagine the scene. Marcus probably wore his best suit, the navy one I bought him for his promotion interview 2 years ago. Wanda probably wore her Sunday hat. They walked in expecting the red carpet. They walked in expecting the bank manager to be impressed by Sienna's fake Hermes bag and Marcus's sales pitch. But math does not care about your suit, and credit scores do not care about your dreams. 10 minutes later, another alert popped up. Application denied, reason debt to income ratio, delinquent accounts. Credit score, 580. I took a sip of my green tea. 580. Marcus had torched his credit in 6 months. He had maxed out every card trying to keep up with Tiana. He had missed car payments, and now the bank was telling him what I had told him for years. You are broke, Marcus, but scammers like Tiana do not let a little thing like a bank rejection stop them. They pivot. They use rejection to fuel the victim narrative. I switched my audio feed to the bug in the teapot. They must have been back in the car, or maybe they brought the teapot with them for good luck. No, the audio was coming from the car Bluetooth system. I had tapped into that months ago when the car was still in my name before the transfer. They just do not get it, Marcus was shouting, hitting the steering wheel. They see a black man with ambition and they want to shut him down. They want to keep us in our place. It is systemic, Wanda agreed, her voice trembling. After all the years I paid my mortgage on time, they treat us like beggars. They did not know that I paid the mortgage. They did not know that the bank saw a history of missed payments the second I stopped the auto draft. Baby, calm down, Sienna cooed. Her voice was the only calm thing in that car. Listen to me. Traditional banks are dinosaurs. They are for people who want to stay middle class. My father never uses banks. He uses private capital. He uses leverage. Who? Marcus asked, hope creeping back into his voice. Legacy Partners, Sienna said. It is a boutique firm. They fund high-risk, high-reward projects. They understand visionaries. Marcus. They do not look at credit scores. They look at the man. I smiled. Legacy Partners. That sounded impressive. It sounded exclusive. It was also a shell company registered in Delaware 3 days ago. Its sole shareholder was Nemesis Holdings, which was owned by a trust, which was managed by me. Call them, Marcus said. Call your dad. Get us an intro. I heard Sienna dialing. I heard the ringtone. Then I heard a male voice on the speaker. It was deep, gravelly, and authoritative. Hello? Daddy, it is Sienna, Princess. How is the honeymoon? It is over, Daddy. We are back to business. Listen, Marcus and I have a situation. The banks are playing games. We need liquidity for the metaverse deal. We need $500,000. Today. There was a pause. A calculated pause. 500 is a lot of cash on short notice, Princess. My liquid assets are tied up in the Tokyo expansion. Please, Daddy. Marcus is good for it. We have collateral. We have his mother's house. It is a historic property. The house was worth $300,000 on a good day, but in their minds, it was a mansion. Let me make a call, the voice said. I know a guy at Legacy Partners. He owes me a favor. If you have the collateral, he might do it. But it will cost you. High interest. Short term. We do not care about interest, Marcus shouted toward the dashboard. We just need the capital. We will double it in a month anyway. Send him the paperwork, the voice said. I will vouch for you. The call ended. It was a brilliant performance. The man on the phone was not her father. It was probably some guy she met at a bar or another grifter she worked with. But to Marcus and Wanda, it was a lifeline from the billionaire class. 5 minutes later, the application hit my server. Legacy Partners loan request. Applicant, Marcus Davis. Co-signer, Wanda Davis. Collateral residential property at 4,582 Martin Luther King Drive. Amount $500,000. I opened the file. I reviewed the terms I had drafted myself the night before. Interest rate 25%. Compounded monthly. Origination fee 10%. Default clause, immediate seizure of all collateral assets upon 24 hours of missed payment. No grace period. No arbitration. Total surrender. It was a death sentence. It was a deal no sane person would sign. It was a deal designed for desperate people blinded by greed. I approved the preliminary review. I sent the digital contract to Marcus's email. Now for the final act. I checked the GPS on Marcus's car. They were not going home. They were heading to the Gold Coast. They were pulling up to a luxury car showroom. Of course, they needed to celebrate. They needed to look the part. You cannot be a real estate mogul in a 3-year-old leased sedan. I pulled up the showroom's security feed. I had access because I had audited their inventory last year. I watched them walk in. Marcus strutted like he had already secured the bag. Sienna was on his arm, pointing at a G-Wagon on the showroom floor. It was matte black. It cost more than Wanda's house. I saw Marcus talking to the salesman. He was animated. He was pointing at his phone, probably showing off the email from Legacy Partners. Look, I have funding coming through, he was probably saying. The salesman looked skeptical, but greedy. He took Marcus's license. He ran a check. I intervened. I unlocked a temporary credit boost on Marcus's file, just enough to get him approved for a lease, not a purchase, but a lease with a massive down payment due in 48 hours. The salesman came back smiling. He shook Marcus's hand. Marcus turned to Wanda and hugged her. Wanda was crying. She was touching the leather seats of the G-Wagon like it was a holy relic. She thought this was it. She thought she had finally made it. Sienna stood back, checking her reflection in the car window. She looked bored. She looked like a woman who had done this a dozen times before. They sat down at the glass desk in the showroom. Marcus opened his email on his phone. He pulled up the contract from Legacy Partners. I watched him scroll. He did not read the terms. He did not read the default clause. He did not read the fine print that said the lender had the right to audit his personal accounts at any time. He just scrolled to the bottom. Wanda leaned over his shoulder. "Is it real, baby?" she asked. "It is real, Mama," he said. 500,000. It is happening. Sign it, Sienna said. "Do not let them change their minds." Marcus tapped the screen. He signed his name with a flourish. Then he handed the phone to Wanda. Wanda hesitated for a second. Just 1 second. Maybe some instinct from her years of struggling whispered to her. Maybe she remembered how hard she worked for that house. But then she looked at the G-Wagon. She looked at Sienna's diamond. She looked at Marcus's desperate, hungry face. She signed. The notification flashed on my screen. Contract executed. Wire transfer pending. I sat there in my office, 45 floors above them. I looked at the digital signatures. Marcus Davis. Wanda Davis. They had just signed their lives away. I authorized the wire transfer. $500,000 moved from my holding company to Marcus's account. It was a lot of money. It was a fortune. But I knew where it was going. It was not staying with Marcus. It was going straight to the Metaverse Real Estate Company, which was a shell, which would vanish in a week. And when it did, Marcus would be left with a 25% interest loan he could not pay. He would have a G-Wagon he could not afford, and he would have a mother who was about to be homeless. I picked up my digital pen and signed the final approval on my end. Funding complete. "The fish has taken the bait," I said aloud to the empty room. On the screen, I saw Marcus jumping up and down in the showroom. He was high-fiving the salesman. Wanda was praising Jesus. Sienna was smiling that shark smile. They drove off the lot in the new car, leaving the old one behind. They thought they were driving into a sunset of wealth and ease. They were driving off a cliff, and I was the one who built the road. I closed the laptop. My work for the day was done. Now all I had to do was wait for the first payment date. 30 days. The clock starts now. The invitation arrived on Tuesday. It was heavy cream cardstock with gold foil lettering that probably cost $10 a unit. It was delivered by a courier to the mailroom of my building, but addressed to the basement level, where the data entry clerks worked. Marcus really wanted to make sure I knew my place. He wanted me to look up from my imaginary low-wage job and see his name embossed in gold. "You are cordially invited to the exclusive launch of the Obsidian Group, a vision of the future, a legacy of wealth." I ran my thumb over the raised letters. The Obsidian Group. It sounded ominous. It sounded like a shell company in the Cayman Islands. It sounded exactly like the kind of fraud I investigated for a living. Marcus had called me an hour after it was delivered. He sounded breathless with adrenaline and arrogance. "I hope you got the invite, Tiana," he said. "I want you there. I want you to see what is possible when you stop being afraid of risk. I want you to see what Sienna and I built in 2 weeks, something you and I could not build in 5 years." I did not tell him that the reason we did not build it was because I refused to commit federal crimes. I just told him I would be there. "I am bringing a +1, he added quickly. "My lawyer." "Just kidding." "But seriously," Tiana tried to dress up. "This is a black tie event. No polyester. We have investors coming from Dubai." I hung up before I laughed in his face. Investors from Dubai. He meant Sienna's friends from the internet. Saturday night arrived. I stood in my walk-in closet. I pushed aside the business suits I wore to intimidate CEOs and the tactical gear I wore during site raids. I reached for the back of the closet. Marcus expected me to show up in something cheap. He expected me to look like the poor ex-wife who was struggling to pay her rent. He wanted me to look diminished so his new wife could shine brighter. I decided to disappoint him. I pulled out a silk slip dress from the row. It was midnight blue, almost black. It was simple. It had no sequins. It had no logos. It had no flash. To the untrained eye, it looked plain. To anyone who knew wealth, it screamed power. It cost $4,000. I paired it with a vintage Cartier watch and diamond stud earrings that were small but flawless. This was quiet luxury. It was the kind of wealth that whispered while Marcus and his family were busy screaming. I took a cab to the Four Seasons. I could have taken my town car, but I wanted to maintain the illusion just a little longer. The ballroom was dripping in excess. There were ice sculptures. There were aerial acrobats hanging from silk ropes in the ceiling. There was a champagne fountain that looked like a hygiene nightmare. And there was Marcus. He was standing at the entrance wearing a white tuxedo jacket. He looked like a waiter at a country club. He was shaking hands with people I recognized from the wedding. Cousins who owed child support, friends who drove cars with expired tags. They were all dressed in rented tuxedos and fast fashion gowns, acting like they were at the Oscars. Tiana Marcus boomed when he saw me. He walked over, a champagne flute in his hand. "You made it. And look at you. You actually found something decent to wear. Did you find it at an outlet store?" I smiled. It was a tight, polite smile. "Something like that, Marcus. The party looks expensive." "It is an investment," he said, puffing out his chest. "You have to spend money to make money, Tiana. But you would not know about that. You're too busy saving coupons." I looked past him. The room was filled with rented furniture and rented flowers. I knew for a fact that the deposit for this ballroom had come from the high-interest loan I approved on Monday. I was paying for this party. Every shrimp cocktail, every drop of champagne. It was all funded by me. "Where is the guest of honor?" I asked. "She is preparing for her grand entrance," Marcus said, checking his Rolex. A fake Rolex, I noted. The second hand was ticking instead of sweeping. "She is going to blow everyone away. We are unveiling the metaverse prototypes tonight." I walked into the room. I took a glass of sparkling water from a passing tray. I scanned the crowd. I saw Connor standing by the bar looking miserable. He was the only one not drinking the Kool-Aid. He gave me a subtle nod. I nodded back. Then the lights dimmed. A spotlight hit the top of the grand staircase. Music swelled. It was some dramatic orchestral piece that sounded like the soundtrack to a superhero movie. "Ladies and gentlemen," the MC announced, "please welcome the visionary, the muse, the co-founder of the Obsidian Group, Mrs. Sienna Davis." Sienna stepped into the light. She was wearing a gold dress that was entirely covered in sequins. It was so bright it hurt my eyes. It had a train that dragged 6 feet behind her. She was wearing a necklace that looked like it was made of glass doorknobs. It was supposed to look like diamonds, but under the harsh spotlight it refracted the wrong colors. She descended the stairs slowly, waving to the crowd like she was royalty. The room erupted in applause. Wanda was in the front row screaming her name. Ebony was filming on her phone, crying tears of joy. Sienna took the microphone at the bottom of the stairs. "Thank you," she purred. "Thank you for believing in the future. Tonight we are not just launching a company. We are launching a revolution. We are taking real estate where it has never gone before, into the digital realm, into the ether." She gestured to a large screen behind her. A low-resolution video began to play. It showed blocky graphics of houses floating in space. It looked like a video game from 20 years ago. "This is the Obsidian City," she declared. "Land that never depreciates. Land that the government cannot tax. Land that is yours forever. For a small investment of $10,000, you can own a digital penthouse. You can be neighbors with celebrities. You can be free." I watched the crowd. They were mesmerized. They were pulling out their checkbooks. They were signing pledge cards. It was a masterclass in manipulation. She was selling them nothing. She was selling them air. And they were buying it because they wanted to believe in the shortcut. They wanted to believe they could get rich without work. Marcus joined her on stage. He looked at her with puppy dog eyes. "My wife is a genius," he told the crowd. "She has opened my eyes. She has shown me that the old way of working is dead. Tiana used to tell me to save. She used to tell me to be careful. But Sienna tells me to fly." The crowd cheered. Some people turned to look at me, snickering. I sipped my water. "Fly, Marcus. Fly right into the sun." After the speech, the lights came up and the mingling began. Sienna was holding court in the center of the room, accepting compliments and checks. Marcus was running around collecting signatures. I stood near a pillar, watching the money change hands. I was mentally calculating the total. She had probably raised $50,000 in the last 10 minutes. That was grand larceny, that was wire fraud, that was prison time. Well, well, well. I turned to see Wanda standing there. She was holding a large glass of red wine. She was wearing a red dress that was 2 sizes too small. She looked flushed and triumphant. Look who decided to show her face! Wanda sneered. I surprised you came. I thought you would be too embarrassed to show your face around real success. Hello, Wanda, I said. Did you hear the speech? She asked, stepping closer. Did you see the vision? That is what a real woman does, Tiana. She builds. She inspires. She does not nag. She does not count pennies. I looked at her. I looked at the woman who had sold her own house to fund this scam. I heard the speech, Wanda. It was certainly creative. Creative, she scoffed. It is genius. Sienna has connections you could only dream of. She has already made us rich. Look at this. She held up her wrist. There was a bracelet on it. It looked like gold, but I could see the green tint on her skin underneath. Sienna gave me this, she said. It is from Dubai. Solid gold. She treats me like a queen. Unlike you. You never gave me anything but grief. I gave you a roof over your head, I thought. I gave you dignity. I am glad you are happy, Wanda, I said calmly. Happy, she laughed. I am ecstatic. My son is a mogul. My daughter-in-law is a star. And you are just a data entry clerk in a cheap dress. She looked me up and down, her eyes lingering on the silk of my dress. She did not know what it was. She just knew it did not sparkle, so she assumed it was cheap. Where did you get that? She asked. The clearance rack at the mall. It looks like a nightgown. Did you run out of money for a real dress? It is comfortable, I said. It is sad, she corrected. Just like you. You know Marcus pities you. We all do. You are here alone drinking water while we are celebrating our empire. She took a step closer. She swayed slightly. She was drunk. Oops. She stumbled. Her hand jerked forward. The glass of red wine tilted. It was not an accident. I saw her eyes. I saw the intent. She wanted to stain me. She wanted to mark me. The wine splashed across the front of my dress. Dark crimson liquid soaked into the midnight blue silk. It ran down the front, dripping onto my shoes. Wanda gasped, her hand flying to her mouth in a mock gesture of shock. Oh my God, she said loud enough for people to turn around. I am so sorry. I tripped. Oh, Tiana, look at you. You are a mess. The room went quiet. People were staring. Sienna stopped talking mid-sentence. Marcus looked over, a smirk playing on his lips. Wanda reached out to dab at the stain with a cocktail napkin, but I stepped back. Oh well, she said, dropping the act. It is probably for the best. That dress was ugly anyway. I am sure your salary can cover the dry cleaning. Or maybe not. Isn't data entry minimum wage these days? She laughed. It was a cruel, jagged sound. People around us chuckled nervously. They were waiting for me to cry. They were waiting for me to run out of the room in shame. They wanted the scene. They wanted the drama. I looked down at the dress. It was ruined. $4,000 destroyed in a second of petty malice. But I did not feel angry. I felt cold. I felt the finality of it. I looked up at Wanda. I looked her dead in the eye. It is fine, Wanda, I said. My voice was steady. It did not waver. It is just a dress. Just a dress, she mocked. Listen to you acting like you can afford to replace it. Do not worry, honey. When Marcus makes his first million, maybe he will buy you a new one. Out of charity. I reached into my clutch. I pulled out a silk handkerchief and dabbed the wine from my hands. I checked my watch. The vintage Cartier. It was 11:45. The loan agreement I had drafted, the one Marcus had signed without reading, had a very specific clause. The first payment was due upon funding. It was a test of liquidity. A common tactic in high-risk lending. The funding had cleared this morning. The payment deadline was midnight tonight. If the payment was not received by midnight, the lender had the right to accelerate the entire loan. That meant the full $500,000 became due immediately, plus penalties, plus the right to seize collateral without a court order. Marcus had spent the money. He had spent it on this party. He had spent it on the venue. He had transferred the rest to Sienna, who I knew had already moved it offshore. He did not have the payment. I looked at Marcus across the room. He was laughing with a man I recognized as a local car dealer. He looked like he was on top of the world. I looked at Sienna. She was checking her phone, probably confirming the wire transfer. I looked at Wanda, who was smirking at me, waiting for me to break. "You are right, Wanda," I said softly. "Tonight is a night to remember." I looked at my watch again. 11:46, 14 minutes. I smoothed the front of my ruined dress. I did not care about the stain. It was a battle scar. It was proof of who they were. "I am going to head out," I said. "I have an early morning." Running away, Wanda taunted. "Go ahead. Go back to your little apartment. Leave the real business to the big dogs." I smiled. It was the first genuine smile I had smiled all night. Enjoy the party, Wanda. Really. Enjoy every single second of it. Because when the clock strikes 12, the carriage turns back into a pumpkin. "What are you talking about?" she asked, her brow furrowing. "You are talking nonsense. You are drunk on water." "You will see," I said. I turned and walked away. I did not rush. I walked with the grace of a woman who knew exactly where the exit was. I walked past Marcus. Leaving so soon, he called out, "The night is young, Tiana. We have not even cut the check for the investors yet." "Good luck with that, Marcus," I said without stopping. "Make sure you spell the names right." I walked out of the ballroom. I walked through the lobby. The doorman opened the door for me and the cool night air hit my face. I pulled out my phone. I opened the app that controlled the loan servicing. Status payment pending. Time 11:50. I stood on the curb waiting for my car. I watched the minutes tick down on my screen. 11:55, 11:58, 11:59, 12 o'clock. The screen refreshed. Status payment missed. Default triggered. Acceleration clause activated. Asset seizure protocols initiated. I pressed a button on my phone. Send notifications. Inside that ballroom, phones were about to start buzzing. Emails were about to land. And the automated foreclosure notice on Wanda's house was being generated by the county clerk system, which was linked to my software. My car pulled up. It was a black SUV. The driver opened the door. "To the airport, Miss Williams?" he asked. "No," I said, getting in. "Take me home. I have some work to do in the morning." I looked back at the hotel one last time. The lights were blazing, the music was thumping. Cinderella had lost her shoe. But the prince was broke. And the stepmother was about to be homeless. The magic was gone. Now the reality began. 2 weeks had passed since the night of the gala. 2 weeks of silence from my end. But silence is loud when you are waiting for the other shoe to drop. I knew the notices had been sent. I knew the emails had landed in Marcus's inbox. The default notice on the loan. The acceleration clause demand. The intent to foreclose on Wanda's house. But scammers are experts at buying time. They are magicians of delay. I watched from my office as Sienna spun a web of excuses so thick it could catch a plane. She told them the bank transfers were delayed due to international holidays. She told them the servers were down. She told them the investors wanted to add another zero to the check, so the paperwork had to be redone. Marcus and Wanda believed her because they had to. If they stopped believing her for even a second, the reality of what they had done would crush them. On a rainy Wednesday afternoon, my receptionist called. Connor was in the lobby. He looked nervous. He looked like a man who was checking over his shoulder. "Send him up," I said. Connor walked into my office clutching a manila envelope like it was a shield. He looked tired. His shirt was wrinkled. He sat down opposite me and exhaled a breath he seemed to have been holding since the wedding. "I should not be here, Tiana," he said. "Ebony would kill me if she knew. She thinks you are the devil. She thinks you are trying to sabotage their black excellence." I poured him a glass of water. "I am not the devil, Connor. I am just the person keeping the score. What do you have for me?" Connor slid the envelope across the glass desk. "I found this in the trash," he said. "Sienna is usually careful. She shreds everything, but she got careless yesterday. She ordered some designer shoes online and she threw the packing slip away in the kitchen recycling bin. I opened the envelope. Inside was a crumpled receipt for a pair of Christian Louboutin heels. Price tag $1,200, but it was not the price that mattered. It was the billing address. The shoes were billed to a P.O. box in Miami. The name on the billing account was not Sienna Davis. It was not even Chantel Williams. It was Dominique Devereaux. I looked up at Connor. He was watching my face, waiting for confirmation. "Who is Dominique Devereaux?" he asked. I leaned back. Dominique is one of her aliases, Connor. She used that name in Texas 2 years ago. She defrauded a cattle rancher out of $300,000. Connor put his head in his hands. I knew it. I knew something was wrong. She lied about the wire transfer, Tiana. Marcus told me that $500,000 hit his account from Legacy Partners. He transferred it to Sienna immediately. She said she was moving it to the metaverse liquidity pool. But I checked the blockchain ledger for the company she mentioned. There was no transaction. The money just vanished. It did not vanish, Connor, I said. It went to an offshore account in the Caymans. She is cleaning it. Connor looked sick. Marcus is ruined, isn't he? That loan. The interest rate was insane. I saw the terms on his desk. He signed a death warrant. He did, I confirmed. And the lender is not forgiving. Connor looked at me with a sudden realization. His eyes widened. You know who the lender is, don't you? I did not answer him directly. I just held his gaze. Connor, listen to me, I said, leaning forward. You are the only decent person in that family. You work hard. You love your wife, even though she is blind to reality. You need to protect yourself. What do you mean, he asked. I mean, Sienna is running out of road. Marcus is tapped out. Wanda has mortgaged everything. The next person they are going to come for is you. They are going to ask you to dip into your savings. They are going to ask you to take out a loan. Ebony is going to guilt you. She is going to say you do not support the family. She already has. Connor whispered. She asked me for $10,000 yesterday. She said Sienna needed bridge capital to unlock the main accounts. Did you give it to her? No. But she was furious. She said I was being financially abusive. I stood up and walked around the desk. I put a hand on his shoulder. Keep your wallet shut, Connor. Lock your joint accounts. Move your personal savings to a bank Ebony does not use. Because when this house of cards falls down, they are going to be looking for anyone to break the fall. Do not let it be you. Connor stood up. He looked terrified but resolved. Thank you, Tiana. I do not know why you are helping me. I stood by while they treated you like dirt. You are the only one who never treated me like dirt, I said. Now go, before they realize you are missing. Connor left. I watched him go, knowing he was walking back into a war zone. I turned back to my computer. It was time to check in on the happy couple. I put on my headphones and tuned into the teapot. The audio feed was coming from the dining room of Marcus's leased condo. The tea set was sitting on the sideboard. The atmosphere was tense. I could hear heavy pacing. Babe, you have to pay the car note, Marcus was saying. His voice was high and tight. The leasing agency called me 3 times today. They said the payment bounced. They are threatening to repossess the G-Wagon. I told you, Marcus, Sienna replied, her voice bored and irritated. My accounts are frozen. The SEC is doing a random audit on my father's firm. It happens when you move this much money. It is standard procedure for billionaires. A random audit, Marcus shouted. For 2 weeks. Sienna, I have $500,000 of debt sitting on my head. Legacy Partners sent a notice of default. They are talking about seizing my mother's house. You said you would pay them back in 48 hours. And I will. Sienna snapped. As soon as the audit clears. Why are you so impatient? Do you not trust the process? Do you not trust me? I trust you, Marcus said, backing down immediately, as I knew he would. But I have zero cash flow, Sienna. I spent my last paycheck on the deposit for the launch party. I cannot even buy groceries. And you just came home with 3 bags from Saks Fifth Avenue. How are you buying clothes if your accounts are frozen? Sienna sighed, the sound of a martyr dealing with a child. I have a separate emergency credit line, Marcus. It is for maintaining appearances. We cannot look poor. If investors see us looking ragged, they will pull out. I am doing this for us. I am building our brand. You should be thanking me, not interrogating me. You bought a $3,000 purse, Marcus said, his voice trembling. And I cannot pay the electric bill. Then put it on a credit card, Tiana yelled. Figure it out, Marcus. Be a man. My father never whined about bills. He found solutions. If you want to be a boss, you have to handle the pressure. Stop acting like a broke salesman and start acting like a CEO. The manipulation was masterful. She was spending his future while shaming him for his present. But Marcus was breaking. I could hear it. He was not built for this level of stress. He was a man who liked comfort. He liked the appearance of wealth, not the risk of it. I need you to return the purse, he said quietly. What did you say? Tiana's voice dropped to a dangerous whisper. Return the purse, Marcus said louder this time. And the shoes. And the sunglasses. We need the cash, Tiana. We need to pay the car note. We need to give legacy partners something to keep them from taking my mama's house. I am not returning anything, Tiana spat. I am not walking into Saks like a peasant and asking for a refund. That is humiliating. You are humiliating me. Just then, the front door opened. I heard the jingle of keys. Wanda had arrived. Hey, babies, Wanda called out cheerfully. I brought some gumbo. I thought you two might be hungry working so hard on the empire. Mama, Marcus said, his voice cracking. Mama, tell her we need to pay the bills. Wanda walked into the room. I could hear her setting down a heavy pot. What is going on? She asked. Why is there so much tension in here? You two are newlyweds. You should be glowing. He wants me to return my engagement gifts, Tiana said, immediately playing the victim. He wants me to take back the things I bought to represent our company. He is acting like we are poor, Wanda. He is stressing me out. Wanda tutted. Marcus, baby, why are you upsetting your wife? You know she is under a lot of pressure with the audit. Mama, the G-Wagon is going to get repossessed, Marcus shouted. Legacy Partners is going to take your house. Do you understand that? They sent a letter. They are starting proceedings. Wanda laughed. It was a nervous, dismissive laugh. Oh, Marcus, do not be so dramatic. They are not going to take my house. I signed those papers as a formality. Tiana said it was just paperwork. Besides, Tiana's father is a billionaire. He is not going to let us lose a little house in Chicago. Right, Tiana. Exactly, Tiana said. Daddy is sending a wire transfer as soon as the markets open in Tokyo on Monday. He is bypassing the audit. It just takes time. Marcus is just being paranoid. He is letting his scarcity mindset take over. It is very unattractive. See, Wanda said, turning on her son. She has a plan, Marcus. You need to have faith. You need to stop counting pennies like your ex-wife. That woman really did a number on you. She made you afraid of your own shadow. I clenched my fists. Even when I was saving them, they were blaming me. I'm not afraid, Marcus yelled. I am broke, Mama. I am completely broke. I have negative $400 in my checking account. Then fix it, Wanda snapped. Go drive Uber. Go sell some of those old suits you do not wear. Do whatever you have to do to support your wife until her money clears. That is what a husband does. He provides. He does not whine to his mother and his wife about bills. Marcus let out a sound of pure frustration. It was a guttural groan. You are siding with her, he said in disbelief. I am your son. I am telling you we are in danger. And you are telling me to sell my clothes. I am telling you to be a man, Wanda said coldly. Tiana is a prize, Marcus. High maintenance comes with the territory. If you cannot handle her, maybe you should go back to Tiana. Go back to your coupons and your little apartment and your boring life. But do not drag me back there with you. I like the G-Wagon. I like the status. I am not giving it up because you are scared. Fine, Marcus whispered. Fine, I will handle it. I heard him walk out of the room. I heard the bedroom door slam. Tiana let out a long sigh. I do not know if I can do this, Mama Wanda. She said, her voice thick with fake tears. He is so weak. I need a king, not a peasant. Hush now, baby, Wanda comforted her. He will come around. He just needs a little push. You keep spending. You keep shining. Do not let him dim your light. Thank you, Mama Tiana sniffled. You are the only one who understands me. I took off my headphones. My stomach turned. Wanda was literally coaching the wolf on how to eat her sheep. She was so blinded by the reflection of gold that she could not see the blood on the floor. But Marcus was at his breaking point. I knew him. When he was cornered, he did stupid things. He panicked. And Sienna knew it too. She knew the well was dry. She knew Marcus had nothing left to give. She was going to run. I checked my tracking software. Sienna had booked a flight. One way. To Zurich. Departing tomorrow night at 11 p.m. She was cashing out. She was going to take the jewelry, the clothes, and whatever cash she had squirreled away, and she was going to leave them holding the bag. I picked up my phone. I called Jada. It is time, I said. Is she moving? Jada asked. She is running, I said. Flight to Zurich tomorrow night. Do we stop her? Jada asked. No, I said. Not yet. Let her get to the airport. Let her think she made it. I want Marcus to see the empty closet. I want Wanda to see the empty jewelry box. I want them to feel the air leave the room. And then, what Jada asked. And then I said we introduced them to the FBI. I looked at the calendar. Tomorrow was Monday, the day the wire transfer from Tokyo was supposed to arrive. It was going to be a very disappointing Monday for the Davis family. But, for me, it was going to be payday. Monday morning arrived with the precision of a guillotine blade. The sun was shining over Chicago, but inside the Davis household, I knew the atmosphere was about to become stormy. I sat at my desk, a cup of Earl Grey tea steaming beside my keyboard. The digital clock on my monitor read 8:59. At 9 o'clock, exactly, the grace period for the Legacy Partners loan expired. Technically, there was no grace period, but I had programmed the system to send the demand letter the second the markets opened. I watched the seconds tick down. 3, 2, 1. I pressed the enter key. Notification sent. Demand for immediate payment. Amount $50,000. Interest and penalties. Due by 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Failure to remit will result in immediate acceleration of the full principal and commencement of asset seizure proceedings. I put on my headphones. It took exactly 3 minutes for the email to sync to Marcus's phone. I heard the ping through the teapot audio feed. Then I heard the silence. The heavy, suffocating silence of a heart skipping a beat. What is it? Wanda asked, her voice trembling. She sounded tired. She had probably spent the night worrying about her house despite her bravado. It is Legacy Partners, Marcus whispered. The audio picked up the shallow rasp of his breathing. They want $50,000 today, by 5 o'clock. Or they take the house. They take everything. Wanda let out a low moan. 50,000. We do not have 50,000, Marcus. We gave them everything for the deposit. We spent the rest on the launch party. Where is Sienna? Marcus shouted. Where is she? I am right here, baby. Sienna walked into the room. I could hear the click of her heels on the hardwood floor. She sounded calm. Too calm. It was the calm of a predator who has already spotted the exit. Did you transfer the money? Marcus demanded. Did you call Tokyo? Did you fix the audit? Sienna sighed. It was a long, dramatic exhale. I tried, Marcus. I have been on the phone with the bank manager in Zurich all morning. They are ready to release the funds. The $1 million is sitting there waiting to be wired. Then wire it, Marcus screamed. Wire it now. I cannot. Sienna said, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. That is the problem. The compliance officer. He is holding it up. He says there is a flag on the account because of the large withdrawal. He wants a processing fee to clear the flag. A bribe, Marcus. That is how international banking works. You have to grease the wheels. How much? Marcus asked, his voice shaking. 50,000, Sienna said. Cash. He needs it wired via a private courier service by noon. If we send the cash, the flag lifts and the $1 million hits your account by tonight. I shook my head in my office. It was the oldest trick in the book. The advance fee fraud. Give me a little money and I will give you a lot of money. It was desperate and sloppy, but she knew her audience. She knew Marcus was drowning, and a drowning man will grab onto a sword if he thinks it will keep him afloat. 50,000, Marcus repeated. Sienna, I do not have 50,000. I do not have $50. We have to find it, Sienna insisted. Marcus, think about it. It is 50,000 to get 1 million. That is a 20 times return in 6 hours. We can pay off legacy partners tonight. We can buy the house outright. We can pay off the G-Wagon. We just need this one last push. Marcus was pacing. I could hear his heavy footsteps back and forth. Mama, he said, turning to Wanda. Mama, we need the money. I do not have it, Marcus Wanda cried. You know I do not have it. I gave you my savings. I signed the house over. The jewelry, Marcus said. The room went deadly silent. What did you say? Wanda whispered. The jewelry, Mama. Marcus said, his voice hard and desperate. The vintage pieces. The ones you keep in the safe deposit box. The ones you said were for emergencies. This is an emergency. No, Wanda shrieked. No, Marcus. Those are my retirement. Those are all I have left. You cannot ask me to sell them. I am not asking. Marcus shouted. I am telling you. If we do not get that cash by noon, we lose the house anyway. Do you understand that? They will come and put a padlock on the door. You will be on the street. The jewelry will not do you any good if you are sleeping on a park bench. Baby Tiana interjected, her voice soft and persuasive. Mama Wanda, he is right. It is just for a few hours. We sell the jewelry, we get the cash, we wire it, and then tonight, when the million comes in, we go back and buy it all back. Plus more. I will buy you a whole new collection. Cartier, Tiffany, whatever you want. Wanda was sobbing now. It was a guttural, broken sound. I promised my mother I would never sell those pieces, she wept. Your mother is dead, Marcus snapped. I am alive, and I am about to be ruined. Give me the key, Mama. Give me the key to the box. I heard a struggle. I heard the sound of a purse being upended, keys jingling. I am sorry, Mama, Marcus said, but he did not sound sorry. He sounded frantic. I will fix this, I promise. He ran out the door. I heard the car start. He was going to the bank. He was going to empty the safety deposit box. But that would not be enough. I knew the value of Wanda's collection. It was good stuff, mostly pieces she had grifted from ex-boyfriends or stolen from family members over the years, including me, but it would fetch maybe $30,000 at a pawn shop on short notice. He would still be short. I switched feeds to Marcus's cell phone. He was dialing while he drove. Yo, Tyrell, Marcus said when the line connected. Marcus, my man. What is good? I need a favor, Tyrell. A big one. I need 20 bands. Cash. Today. Tyrell laughed. 20 bands. Marcus, you still owe me for the Super Bowl party 3 years ago. I will pay you back double tomorrow, Marcus promised. Double, Tyrell. 40,000. I have a deal closing tonight. $1 million coming in. I just need bridge capital. Double, Tyrell asked, his interest piqued. Double, Marcus swore. I'm good for it. You saw the launch party. You saw the G-Wagon. I am Liquid Man. I just have a banking glitch. Meet me at the shop in an hour, Tyrell said. But Marcus, if you play me. I am not playing, Marcus said. I swear on my life. He hung up. He called another friend, then another. He was begging. He was promising the moon. He was leveraging every scrap of social capital he had left. He was selling his soul for $20,000. Back at the condo, Tiana and Wanda were alone. It is going to be okay, Mama Wanda, Tiana was saying. Her voice was soothing, but I could hear the sound of a zipper. She was packing. She was packing while she comforted the woman she was robbing. Why do you have a suitcase? Wanda asked, sniffing. Oh. This, Tiana said without missing a beat. I am just organizing some things for the dry cleaner. I want everything to be perfect when we celebrate tonight. You really think the money will come? Wanda asked, her voice small and hopeful. I know it will, Tiana said. I manifest abundance, Mama. We are protected. The universe wants us to win. Wanda blew her nose. You are a good girl, Tiana. I am sorry I doubted you. I am just scared. Do not be scared, Tiana said. Fear blocks blessings. Just trust me. I sat in my office and shook my head. The level of manipulation was almost artistic. She had stripped them of everything, their money, their home, their pride, and she still had them thanking her for it. 2 hours later, Marcus burst back into the condo. He was panting. I got it, he gasped. I got it. I heard the heavy thud of a duffel bag hitting the table. 32,000 from the jewelry Marcus listed. 18,000 from Tyrell and the guys. 50,000. Cash. He sounded exhausted, but triumphant. He thought he had won. He thought he had solved the puzzle. Sienna squealed. You did it, baby. You are a provider. You are a king. She unzipped the bag. I heard the rustle of bills. She was counting it, checking the merchandise. It is all here, she said. Perfect. I have the courier waiting downstairs. I have to go meet him right now. Every minute counts. Wait, Marcus said. Can't the courier come up? No, Sienna said quickly. Security protocols. He cannot leave his vehicle with this kind of cash. I have to run it down to him. Then he drives it straight to the international wire transfer hub. It is the only way to beat the deadline. She zipped the bag shut. I am going to go with you, Marcus said. No, baby, Sienna said, stopping him. You stay here. You comfort your mother. Look at her, she is a wreck. She needs her son. I will handle the business. I am the CEO, remember. Marcus hesitated. But Wanda let out a fresh wail. Oh, Lord, my jewelry, Wanda cried. My history. Marcus turned to her. It is okay, Mama. We will get it back. Sienna seized the moment. I love you, Marcus, she said. Her voice was thick with emotion. Fake emotion. I am doing this for us. For our future, for our legacy. She stepped close to him. I could hear the fabric of their clothes rustling. She kissed him. It was a long, deep kiss. A kiss meant to blind him one last time. It was the kiss of a vampire who had finally drained the vein dry. Go make us rich, Marcus whispered. I will, Sienna promised. I heard her heels clicking toward the door. I heard the door open. $1 million by tonight, she called out. Get the champagne ready. The door closed. The lock clicked. She was gone. I watched on my GPS tracker. Sienna did not go downstairs to meet a courier. She went to the parking garage. She got into her car, not the Mercedes that had already been repossessed, but a rental she had stashed weeks ago. She drove out of the garage. She did not turn toward the bank. She turned toward O'Hare International Airport. I sat back in my chair. $50,000 cash in a bag, a suitcase full of designer clothes in the trunk, a one-way ticket to Zurich in her purse. She had done it. She had cleaned them out. Inside the condo, Marcus and Wanda were probably hugging each other, dreaming of the $1 million that would never come. They were probably planning which mansion to buy. They were probably laughing at how smart they were to beat the system. They did not know that the system had just beaten them. I checked the time. It was 1 p.m. The loan deadline was 5 p.m. Sienna's flight was at 11 p.m. I had choices to make. I could call the police now. I could stop her at the airport. I could recover the $50,000 for Marcus. But $50,000 would not save him. He owed $500,000. He owed Tyrell. He owed the car dealership. He owed the IRS probably. Saving the $50,000 would just be a drop in the bucket. It would not teach him anything. It would not break the cycle of arrogance and greed that had led him here. No. He needed to lose it all. He needed to sit in that empty condo and watch the clock tick down. He needed to realize on his own that his queen had abandoned him. I let Sienna drive. I watched her dot move across the map. She was making good time. Traffic was light. I pulled up the foreclosure paperwork on my screen. I filled in the final details. Reason for default non-payment. Action, immediate possession. I saved the document. It was ready to file at 5:01 p.m. I took a sip of my cold tea. It tasted bitter. Revenge, they say, is sweet. But this did not feel sweet. It felt heavy. It felt like watching a car crash in slow motion knowing you cut the brake lines. But then I remembered the wedding. I remembered Marcus mocking me on the live stream. I remembered Wanda throwing my tea set off the balcony. I remembered 5 years of being told I was not enough. And the heaviness lifted. They wanted a show. They wanted a high-stakes life. Well, they just paid $50,000 for a front-row seat to their own destruction. I hoped they enjoyed the performance. Tuesday morning broke over Chicago with a gray, oppressive sky that matched the mood inside the Davis condo perfectly. I sat in my office with a fresh cup of coffee watching the GPS tracker on Marcus's phone. He had not slept. I knew this because the audio feed from the living room had captured his pacing footsteps all night long. Back and forth, like a caged animal, realizing the door was bolted shut. Sienna had been gone for 12 hours. Her phone went straight to voicemail. Her text messages remained undelivered. The tracking on her rental car had gone dark near the airport just as I expected. She had likely ditched the vehicle and the burner phone before boarding her flight. She was a ghost. Inside the condo, the denial was finally beginning to crack. She probably lost her phone, Wanda said, her voice trembling as she sat at the kitchen table. You know how she is, Marcus. She is so focused on the big picture she forgets the little things. She probably dropped it rushing to meet the courier. She has been gone all night, Mama Marcus snapped. His voice was raw. He sounded like a man on the edge of a breakdown. The courier meeting was supposed to take 20 minutes. It has been 14 hours. Maybe she had to fly to Zurich personally, Wanda suggested, grasping at straws. Maybe the bank needed her signature. That is it? She is surprising us. She is going to walk through that door with a suitcase full of cash. Stop it, Marcus yelled. Just stop it. She is not coming back. He grabbed his keys. I am going to her office. I sat up straighter. This was the moment I had been waiting for. The moment reality collided with their delusion. I followed Marcus's GPS signal as he drove like a maniac through the morning traffic. He was heading toward the address listed on the Obsidian Group's business cards. 400 North Michigan Avenue, the Wrigley Building. A prestigious address for a prestigious company. Or so he thought. I switched my view to the security cameras in the lobby of the Wrigley Building. I had access because my firm handled the forensic audits for the property management company. Marcus burst through the revolving doors. He looked disheveled. He was wearing the same clothes he had worn yesterday. His eyes were wild. I need to see Sienna Davis, he shouted at the security guard. The Obsidian Group, Suite 1500. The guard looked at him calmly. Sir, do you have an appointment? I am her husband. Marcus screamed, slamming his hand on the desk. I do not need an appointment. Just let me up. The guard typed something into his computer. Sir, we do not have a tenant by that name. What are you talking about? Marcus said, his voice rising to a hysterical pitch. She has the whole 15th floor. I have been there. I saw the logo on the wall. Sir, the 15th floor is currently under renovation, the guard said. It has been vacant for 6 months. We lease out a virtual mailbox service on the 2nd floor, but there are no physical offices for a company called Obsidian. No, Marcus whispered. No, that is impossible. She took me there. We drank champagne in the corner office. The guard looked at him with pity. Sir, sometimes people rent temporary staging spaces for photo shoots or meetings. Regus has a day office rental on the 3rd floor. Maybe you are confused. Marcus backed away from the desk. His face was gray. He looked like he was going to vomit. He stumbled out of the building. He stood on the sidewalk of the Magnificent Mile, surrounded by tourists and shoppers, and he looked up at the building that contained nothing but air. It was a lie. All of it. The office, the staff, the empire. It was just a rented room and a printed sign. I watched him get back into his car. He sat there for 20 minutes staring at the steering wheel. He was trying to do the math. He was trying to calculate how much he had lost. He drove home slowly this time. The fight had gone out of him. But the day was not done with Marcus Davis. Not by a long shot. When he pulled onto his street, he saw the flashing lights. It was not the police. It was a tow truck. And not just any tow truck. It was a heavy-duty repo rig with the hydraulic lift already lowered. A man in a neon vest was hooking chains to the axle of the matte black G-Wagon. Hey! Marcus shouted, jumping out of his car while it was still rolling. Hey, get away from my truck! What are you doing? The repo man did not even look up. He just kept cranking the winch. Bank order, buddy. Payment declined. Lease terminated. I paid it, Marcus yelled, running up to him. I paid the deposit. I signed the lease on Saturday. Check bounced this morning, the man said, straightening up and wiping grease on his pants. Insufficient funds. Plus, the credit check came back flagged for potential fraud. The dealership wants the asset back immediately. Fraud. Marcus repeated the word like it was a foreign language. Yeah, fraud. Using a fake business entity to secure a lease. The dealership is pressing charges unless we get the vehicle back intact right now. So step aside, unless you want me to call the cops." Marcus stood on the sidewalk, his hands hanging uselessly by his sides. He watched as the G-Wagon, the symbol of his new life, the chariot that was supposed to carry him to greatness, was lifted into the air. Neighbors were watching. Mrs. Johnson from 4B was filming on her phone. The mailman was shaking his head. It was public humiliation. It was the total stripping of his status. Marcus walked into his building. He did not run. He dragged his feet. When he entered the condo, he found Wanda sitting on the floor of the living room. She had the contents of her purse dumped out on the rug. "Mama," Marcus said, his voice hollow. "The car is gone. The office is fake. She is gone." "Mama." Wanda looked up. Her eyes were red, but they were dry. She had moved past grief into survival mode. Wanda was a survivor. She was a cockroach in a sequined dress. "We need money, Marcus," she said. "We need money right now. Legacy Partners is going to come for the house. We have to pay them something. Anything to stall them." "We have nothing," Marcus said, collapsing onto the sofa. "She took the cash. She took the loans. She took the friend's money. We are dead." "No, we are not," Wanda said, standing up. She had a look in her eye that I recognized. It was the look she had when she was about to do something unethical. "I still have the reserve," she said. "What reserve?" Marcus asked. "You gave her the jewelry." "I gave her the costume." "Jewelry," Wanda whispered. "I gave her the pieces I bought at Macy's. I kept the real stuff. The pieces Tiana left behind." I sat up in my office chair. I pressed the headphones tighter to my ears. "What are you talking about?" Marcus asked. When Tiana moved out, Wanda explained, her voice dropping low. "She left a jewelry box in the guest room closet. She thought she emptied it, but there was a false bottom. I found it when I was cleaning. There was a diamond tennis bracelet and a pair of sapphire earrings. Real stones, Marcus. Heavy." I smiled. I knew exactly what she was talking about. I had left that box there on purpose. I had left it there 3 years ago as a test. I wanted to see if she would return it. She never did. But those were not just any diamonds. Those were pieces I had acquired from a police auction. They were recovered stolen property that I had bought legally. But because of their history, they were flagged in the National Pawn Database. Any attempt to sell them would trigger an immediate alert to the local precinct. And I had reported them as missing from my home 2 days after I moved out. I had the police report to prove it. "You stole Tiana's jewelry?" Marcus asked. "I did not steal it," Wanda rationalized. "She left it. Finders keepers. And she owes us Marcus. After the way she treated us. After the way she abandoned you. This is just repayment." "Go sell it," Marcus said. He did not even hesitate. He did not care that it was mine. He did not care that it was theft. He just saw a lifeline. "Go to the pawn shop on State Street, the one that does not ask questions. Get whatever you can." Wanda nodded, stuffing the velvet pouches into her bra. "I will be back in an hour. We will pay Legacy Partners. We will save the house." She ran out the door. I picked up my other phone, the burner I used for sensitive tips. I dialed the number for the pawn shop detail at the Chicago Police Department. "Detective Miller," I said when he answered. "This is your anonymous friend. You know that alert on the Cartier tennis bracelet serial number ending in 459? "Yes, the one from the Williams case. It is about to walk into the gold and silver exchange on State Street. The suspect is an older woman. Red dress. Goes by the name Wanda." I hung up. I watched Wanda on the GPS tracker I had slipped into her purse during our confrontation yesterday. It was amazing what you could do with a sleek of hand when someone was screaming at you. She drove to the pawn shop. She parked. She walked in. I switched to the police scanner feed. "Dispatch to Unit 412. Silent alarm at Gold and Silver Exchange. Suspect attempting to fence stolen goods. Matches description." "Copy that, dispatch. Unit 412 en route. ETA 2 minutes." I waited. 10 minutes later, Marcus's phone rang. I listened through the car Bluetooth, which he had reconnected to his old sedan. "Hello," Marcus answered. "Is this Marcus Davis?" "Yes. This is Sergeant O'Malley from the 3rd Precinct. We have your mother, Wanda Davis, in custody." Marcus dropped the phone. It clattered against the center console, but the line stayed open. "In custody," he whispered. "For what?" A possession of stolen property? The sergeant's voice tinny from the floorboard. She attempted to sell jewelry reported stolen 3 years ago. She claims she found it in your house. You need to come down to the station, Mr. Davis. We have some questions for you, too. Marcus let out a sound that was half laugh, half sob. It was the sound of a man who had reached the bottom of the well and found a trap door to hell. He picked up the phone. "I am coming," he said. He hung up. He sat in the silence of his car. The condo was quiet. The G-Wagon was gone. Sienna was gone. His money was gone. And now his mother was in a holding cell. He looked around the empty living room. He looked at the spot where the TV used to be before he sold it to pay for the engagement ring. He looked at the empty walls, and then he looked at the silver tea set sitting on the table. He picked up the teapot. He stared at his distorted reflection in the tarnished metal. "Tiana," he whispered. Tiana was right. He threw the teapot across the room. It smashed against the wall. The lid flew off. The base cracked. The audio feed cut out with a screech of feedback. I took off my headphones. Silence filled my office. It was done. Wanda was in jail. Marcus was broken. Sienna was a fugitive. I stood up and walked to the window. The sun was setting, casting long shadows over the city. I felt a vibration in my pocket. It was a text from Jada. "Foreclosure filed, notice served. The sheriff will be there in the morning to lock the property." I typed back. "Excellent." I picked up my purse. It was time to go home. I had a busy day tomorrow. I had to go to the police station. I had to give a statement about my stolen jewelry. And then I had to go to the bank and count my money. As I walked to the elevator, I caught my reflection in the glass doors. I did not look like a bitter ex-wife. I did not look like a victim. I looked like a CEO. And tomorrow, Marcus Davis was going to find out exactly who he had divorced. The rain pounded against the floor-to-ceiling windows of my penthouse apartment, a rhythmic drumming that usually lulled me to sleep. But tonight sleep was impossible. It was 2 a.m, and I was wide awake sitting in my living room with a glass of vintage Cabernet swirling in my hand. The city lights of Chicago blurred through the water, streaked glass looking like smeared paint on a dark canvas. My phone sat on the marble coffee table silent for now, but I knew the storm outside was nothing compared to the hurricane I had unleashed on the Davis family. Wanda was in a holding cell, probably trying to barter her way out with a fake designer handbag. Sienna was a ghost, likely halfway across the Atlantic, or sitting in an interrogation room if the feds had moved as fast as I hoped. And Marcus. Marcus was somewhere in the city, stripped of his car, his money, and his dignity. I took a slow sip of wine, letting the rich oak flavor settle on my tongue. I felt a strange calmness, a stillness that comes after the adrenaline of battle fades. I had won. The pieces were off the board. The king was toppled. Then the buzzer rang. It was a harsh, jarring sound in the quiet apartment. I frowned. My doorman David knew better than to buzz me at this hour unless the building was on fire. I walked to the intercom panel on the wall and pressed the button. "Yes, David. Miss Williams. I am so sorry to disturb you." David's voice crackled through the speaker, sounding apologetic and stressed. "There is a man here. He says he is your husband. I told him you are divorced, but he is causing a disturbance." "He is." "Well, he is very intoxicated, Miss Williams. He says it is a matter of life and death." I sighed. Of course. The prodigal son returns. But he was not looking for forgiveness. He was looking for a savior. "Send him up, David," I said. "And David?" "Yes, Miss Williams. Do not help him into the elevator. Let him walk." I hung up and looked down at myself. I was wearing a silk kimono robe hand-painted with gold leaf that I had bought in Kyoto on a business trip last year. It cost more than the engagement ring Marcus had given Sienna. My hair was wrapped in a silk scarf. I looked like exactly what I was, a woman of leisure, a woman of power. I unlocked the front door and walked back to the living room, sitting on the velvet sofa. I crossed my legs and waited. 2 minutes later, I heard the elevator ding down the hall. Then I heard heavy, stumbling footsteps. Then a thud against my door. Then a fist pounding against the wood, weak and desperate. Tiana, open up, please." I did not get up. I used the remote on the coffee table to disengage the smart lock. The bolt slid back with a mechanical click. "Come in, Marcus." I called out, my voice cool and detached. The door swung open and Marcus Davis stumbled into my sanctuary. He looked like a man who had been chewed up and spit out by the city. His white tuxedo jacket, the one he had worn with such arrogance at the launch party, was stained with mud and what looked like vomit. His shirt was unbuttoned halfway down his chest, exposing sweat-slicked skin. He was missing a shoe. He took 2 steps into the foyer and collapsed to his knees. He did not fall because he tripped. He fell because his legs simply gave out under the weight of his despair. "Tiana," he sobbed. His voice was a raw, broken rasp. "Tiana, help me." I stayed on the sofa. I did not rush to him. I did not offer him a towel. I just watched him. "You are dripping on my Italian marble, Marcus," I said. He looked up at me. His eyes were bloodshot, swollen, and wild with panic. He looked around the apartment, his gaze darting from the modern art on the walls to the skyline view. For a second, confusion clouded his misery. He had never been here. He knew I had an apartment, but he assumed it was a studio in a bad neighborhood. He assumed I was struggling, just like I let him believe. "Tiana," he slurred, crawling forward a few inches. "They took her. They took Sienna." I swirled my wine. "Who took her, Marcus?" "The kidnappers," he cried, tears streaming down his face, mixing with the grime. "The cartel. Or the mafia. I do not know. She went to meet the courier with the cash and she never came back. They must have been watching her. They saw the money. They snatched her, Tiana. My wife. My beautiful wife." I almost laughed. It was pathetic. Even now, faced with the absolute reality of her disappearance, his ego would not let him accept that he had been conned. It was easier for him to believe in an action movie plot where he was the tragic hero than to admit he was a fool who fell for a pretty face and a fake name. "She is not kidnapped, Marcus," I said. "She is gone." "No," he shouted, slamming his fist on the floor. "You do not know her. You do not know our love. She would never leave me. We were building an empire. It is a ransom situation. I know it. They are going to call. They are going to want money." He looked at me with desperate, pleading eyes. "That is why I came here, Tiana. You have to help me. You are good with numbers. You are an accountant. You know how to track things right. You track invoices. You track spreadsheets." I stared at him. This man who had spent 5 years mocking my career, telling his friends I was a boring bean counter, was now begging for my professional expertise. I thought accounting was for people with no imagination. "Marcus," I said, quoting him word for word from our divorce hearing. "I thought only small-minded people worried about the details. I was wrong." He wept, dragging himself closer until he was at the edge of the rug. "I was wrong, Tiana. You are smart. You are safe. You know how to fix things. You always fixed my credit. You always fixed the budget. Please, Tiana, use your computer skills. Trace her phone. Hack the bank. Find her. I will do anything." I stood up slowly, the silk of my robe whispering against my skin. I walked over to him and looked down. He smelled of stale alcohol and fear. He looked like a cockroach that had survived the nuclear blast but lost its legs. "You want me to help you find your wife?" I asked. "The woman you married 1 month after you divorced me. The woman you bought a stolen diamond ring for. She is innocent," Marcus blubbered. "She is a victim, Tiana. Just like my mom. The police took my mom. They said she stole jewelry. It is all a mistake. The whole world has gone crazy today. You have to help me make it make sense." I crouched down so my face was level with his. I wanted him to see me. I wanted him to see the clarity in my eyes. "Marcus, look at me." He looked up, sniffling. "Do you remember what you told me the day you moved out?" I asked softly. "You stood in our living room with your boxes and you told me that I was an anchor. You said I was holding you back from your destiny. You said you needed a woman who dreamed big." "I did not mean it," he lied. "I was stressed. You meant every word I said. And you were right, Marcus. I was holding you back. I was holding you back from bankruptcy. I was holding you back from prison. I was the only thing standing between you and your own stupidity. Tiana, please," he begged, reaching for the hem of my robe. I pulled back sharply. "Do not touch me," I snapped. He recoiled, flinching like a beaten dog. You come into my home in the middle of the night smelling like a gutter, and you ask me to save the woman who robbed you, I said, my voice rising. You are delusional, Marcus. You are not a victim. You are a volunteer. You signed the papers. You gave her the money. You handed your mother over to the police. I did not know, he wailed. I did not know she was a crook. Because you did not want to know, I said, standing up and walking back to the window. You saw a pretty face and a fake Rolex, and you stopped thinking. You let your greed drive the car, and now you are surprised you drove off a cliff. He put his head on the floor and sobbed. It was a pitiful sound. But Tiana, he choked out, I have nothing. They took the G-Wagon. They locked the condo. I have no cash. My cards are declined. I have nowhere to go. I looked out at the city. The rain was stopping, leaving the streets slick and black. You have your dream, Marcus, I said. You wanted a high-stakes life. You wanted excitement. Well, congratulations. You are homeless broke, and your wife is an international fugitive. That is pretty exciting, isn't it? Help me, he whispered. Just a little money. A loan. I will pay you back, I swear. Just enough to get a hotel. Enough to hire a lawyer for Mama. You have this nice apartment. You must have some savings. Even a data entry clerk saves money, right? I froze. Even now. Even here on his knees in my penthouse, he still believed the lie. He still thought I was the little wife with the little job. He looked at my silk robe, my marble floors, my view, and he could not process it. He thought maybe I was renting, or maybe I had a roommate. He could not conceive that I, Marcus Davis's ex-wife, was the architect of this entire reality. I turned around slowly. You think I am a data entry clerk, Marcus? I asked. He looked confused. Well, yeah, that is what you do. You type numbers. You make $40,000 a year. That is what you always said. I walked over to my desk. I picked up a thick cream-colored envelope. It was sealed with a wax stamp. The logo of my firm was embossed on the front. Nemesis Holdings. I walked back to Marcus and dropped the envelope on the floor in front of his face. This is not money, I said. He looked at it, blinking. What is it? It is an invitation, I said. To what? To your reality check, I said. He reached out and picked it up, his dirty fingers smudging the pristine paper. Read it, Marcus. He tore it open. He pulled out a card. It was an appointment card. Location 45th floor. The Rookery Building. 209 South LaSalle Street, time 900 a.m. tomorrow. Attendee Mr. Marcus Davis. Host Tiana Williams. Senior partner. Head of Forensic Investigations. He read it. He squinted at the words. Senior partner. What is this? He asked, his voice trembling. What does this mean? It means you are going to get up off my floor, I said. It means you are going to leave my apartment. It means you are going to go find a shelter, or a park bench, or a cardboard box, and you are going to sleep it off. And tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock you are going to walk into that building. Why, he asked. Why should I go there? Because, Marcus, I said, leaning down one last time, my voice a whisper of pure steel. Because if you want to know where your wife is, if you want to know who owns your debts, if you want to know why your mother is in jail, and if you want to know who I really am, you will be there. He stared at me. For the first time, I saw a flicker of genuine fear in his eyes. He realized he did not know the woman standing in front of him. He realized the anchor had been the captain all along. Now get out, I said, straightening up. Before I call David to drag you out. Marcus scrambled to his feet. He clutched the envelope to his chest like it was a lifeline. He looked at me one last time, searching for the Tiana he used to push around. But she wasn't there. I will be there, he whispered. 9 o'clock. He backed out of the room. He stumbled into the hallway. I hit the button to close the door. I listened as the lock slid home. I let out a breath I did not know I was holding. I walked back to the window and finished my wine. He thought I was a clerk. He thought I made $40,000 a year. Tomorrow he was going to find out that I billed $500 an hour just to read his emails. Tomorrow he was going to meet the real Tiana, and she was not going to offer him a loan. She was going to offer him a receipt. The elevator ride to the 45th floor of the Rookery Building was silent, and it smelled like fear. I was not in the elevator, of course. I was already upstairs sitting at the head of the conference table watching the security feed on my tablet. But I could imagine the smell. It was the smell of sweat and cheap cologne trying to mask the scent of impending doom. Marcus stood in the corner of the elevator cab staring at the floor. He had cleaned himself up since his midnight visit to my apartment, but he still looked gray. His suit was wrinkled. His eyes were bloodshot. Beside him stood Ebony, his sister. She was looking around the gold-plated interior of the elevator with her nose turned up, trying to pretend she was not impressed. And in the back was Connor. He looked pale. He kept checking his watch like he had a train to catch. The doors opened. My assistant Sarah met them. Sarah was 22 years old and sharper than a tack. "Mr. Davis," she said with a professional smile that did not reach her eyes, "Miss Williams is expecting you. Please follow me." She led them through the bullpen. I wanted them to see it. I wanted them to see the hive of activity. Dozens of analysts staring at multiple monitors tracking assets across the globe. I wanted Marcus to see the scale of the world he had dismissed as data entry. Ebony whispered something to Marcus. She probably asked if I was the receptionist here. She could not conceive of a reality where I held any power. Sarah opened the double-glass doors to the main conference room. It was a corner office space with views of the Chicago Board of Trade and the lake. The table was made of reclaimed walnut and was long enough to land a plane on. I was sitting at the far end. I did not stand up. I was wearing a tailored cream suit, and my hair was pulled back in a severe bun. On the table in front of me was a laptop, a pitcher of water, and 3 leather-bound folders. "Have a seat," I said. They walked in slowly. The room was intimidating. It was designed to be. It was where we brought CEOs before we indicted them. It was where we brought politicians before we ruined them. Ebony pulled out a chair and sat down, crossing her arms. "So, this is where you work," she said, looking around with a sneer. "It is nice, Tiana. For a secretary pool. Did your boss let you borrow the room for your little family meeting?" I looked at her. Ebony was Wanda in training. She had the same delusion, the same unearned arrogance. Connor sat down next to her. He put a hand on her arm. "Ebony, shut up," he hissed. "Just shut up and look around. Look at the name on the door." Ebony glanced at the frosted glass. Tiana Williams, Senior Partner, Director of Forensic Investigations. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. Marcus sat down last. He slumped into the chair. He looked small. The grandeur of the room seemed to shrink him. "You wanted answers?" "Marcus," I said, my voice echoing slightly in the large room. "You came to my home last night begging for help. You said your wife was kidnapped. You said you were a victim." "I am a victim," he croaked. "She took everything, Tiana. She took the money. She did not take it." "Marcus," I corrected him. "You gave it to her. There is a difference in the eyes of the law. One is theft. The other is stupidity." I tapped a key on my laptop. The blinds on the windows automatically lowered, plunging the room into semi-darkness. A screen descended from the ceiling. The projector hummed to life. A massive, high-resolution image appeared on the screen. It was a mugshot. Marcus gasped. Ebony shrieked. It was Sienna. But she looked different. Her hair was blonde and matted. She had no makeup on. She looked hard. She looked like a criminal. The text underneath read, "Chantel Marie Williams, wanted for wire fraud, grand larceny, and identity theft in 3 states. "Who is that?" Marcus whispered. "That is your wife," I said. "Or rather, that is the woman you thought was your wife. Her name is Chantel. She is 34 years old. She is from Gary, Indiana, not Atlanta. And her father is not a real estate mogul. He is currently serving 20 years in a federal penitentiary for running a Ponzi scheme." "No," Marcus said, shaking his head violently. "No, that is not her. Sienna has class. Sienna has vision. Sienna has a rap sheet longer than your credit history." I snapped. I clicked the remote. The slide changed. This is a timeline I explained using a laser pointer to highlight the dates. 2 years ago, she was in Dallas posing as Dominique Devereaux, an oil heiress. She took a cattle rancher for $300,000. Last year, she was in Miami posing as Vanessa King, a crypto investor. She cleared $500,000. And 6 months ago, she came to Chicago. She found you, Marcus. Why me? Marcus asked, tears streaming down his face. I do not have money. You know I do not have money. Because you were loud, I said. You were flashy. You leased expensive cars. You wore expensive suits. You posted about your grind set on Instagram. You looked like a Marcus. She thought you were rich. By the time she realized you were broke, she was already in too deep, so she decided to pivot. She decided to bleed your mother instead. Ebony stood up, slamming her hands on the table. You are lying, she screamed. You are just jealous. You made this up. You photoshopped these pictures because you cannot stand that Marcus was happy. Tiana loved us. She bought Mama that bracelet. I clicked the remote again. A video started playing. It was grainy footage taken from a distance, but the subject was clear. It was Tiana standing in the international terminal at O'Hare Airport. She was wearing a hoodie and sunglasses, but there was no mistaking her. She walked to a trash can. She pulled a phone out of her pocket and dropped it in. Then she walked to the check-in counter. She handed over a passport. The camera zoomed in as she lowered her sunglasses to speak to the agent. It was her. That video was taken 16 hours ago, I said. My private investigator filmed it. She boarded a flight to Zurich using a passport under the name Vanessa King. She is gone, Ebony. She is not coming back for the bracelet. She is not coming back for Marcus. She is currently drinking champagne in business class on your mother's dime. The room was silent except for the hum of the projector. Marcus put his head on the table. He began to sob. It was a deep, ugly sound. She played me, he wailed. She played me. She played all of you, I said. But here is the part you really need to understand. I turned the lights back on. The sudden brightness made them flinch. I walked to the whiteboard at the front of the room. I picked up a marker. You owe $500,000 to Legacy Partners. I wrote the number on the board. You owe $40,000 to your friends. You owe the car dealership. And you owe your mother the value of her house. I looked at Marcus. Do you know who Legacy Partners is, Marcus? He shook his head, not looking up. Some venture capital firm Tiana found. I laughed. It was a dry, humorless sound. Tiana did not find them, Marcus. I did. He looked up. Confusion clouded his teary eyes. What? Legacy Partners is a shell company, I said. It is a holding entity. It was created for the sole purpose of acquiring distressed debt, high-risk assets. I leaned over the table, getting right in his face. I am Legacy Partners Marcus. He stared at me. His mouth hung open. I own the loan, I said. I own the paper. I own the 25% interest rate. And because you defaulted at midnight last night, I own the collateral. Ebony looked back and forth between us, her brain trying to catch up. Collateral, she asked. What collateral? Your mother's house, I said, turning to her. Wanda signed a deed of trust. She put her home up against the loan. Since Marcus failed to pay the $50,000 installment, I exercised the acceleration clause this morning. I picked up one of the leather folders and threw it across the table. It slid until it hit Marcus's chest. Open it, I commanded. He opened it with shaking hands. Inside was a foreclosure notice stamped by the county clerk. This is a joke, Ebony said, her voice trembling. You cannot do this. That is Mama's house. That is our family home. It is an asset, I said coldly. And now it belongs to my company. You set us up, Marcus whispered. You knew. You knew she was a scammer, and you let me borrow the money anyway. I warned you, I said. I warned you for 5 years to live within your means. I warned you not to trust flashover substance. But you did not listen. You called me boring. You called me an anchor. So I decided to let you sail, Marcus. I gave you exactly what you wanted. I gave you access to capital. I gave you the rope. You are the one who tied the noose. But why? Marcus cried. Why would you do this, Tiana? We were married. Because you tried to take my home, I shouted, my voice finally rising, echoing off the glass walls. You tried to force me to sell my apartment. You sent your mother to my house to steal from me. You humiliated me in front of the world on your wedding day. You wanted a war, Marcus. Well, you got one. And you just lost. Connor spoke up for the first time. His voice was quiet and resigned. She is right, he said, looking at Ebony. She tried to warn me too. She told me to protect our accounts. You talked to her. Ebony accused turning on her husband. You talked to the enemy. She is not the enemy, Ebony Connor said, standing up. She is the only person in this room who lives in reality. Your mother is in jail. Your brother is bankrupt. And you tried to take our savings to give to a con artist. Connor took a deep breath. I am filing for divorce, Ebony. Ebony gasped. No. Connor, no. We can fix this. We cannot fix this, he said. You are toxic. Your family is toxic. I am done funding your delusions. He looked at me. Thank you, Tiana. For everything. He walked out of the room. Ebony screamed and ran after him. Connor, wait. Connor, come back. The door slammed shut, leaving Marcus and me alone. He looked like a man who had been hollowed out. His arrogance, his swagger, his dreams of empire, they were all gone. All that was left was a terrified boy in a dirty tuxedo. Please, Tiana, he whispered. Please do not take the house. It will kill Mama. She has nowhere to go. She can live with you, I said. Oh, wait. You do not have a place either. The condo is locked. I will work, he said. I will pay you back. Every cent. Just give me time. You had time, Marcus. You had 5 years with me to build something real. You chose the shortcut. I walked back to my chair and sat down. I closed my laptop. The sheriff is on his way to the house now, I said. He is going to change the locks. Your things will be on the curb. I suggest you go get them before it rains. Marcus stood up slowly. He looked like he was 100 years old. You are cruel, he said. I am a forensic accountant, Marcus, I replied. I deal in facts. I deal in consequences. He turned and walked to the door. He paused with his hand on the handle. Did you ever love me? He asked. I did, I said. I loved the man I thought you could be, but that man never existed. Only this man existed. The man who would sell his mother's house for a fantasy. He opened the door and walked out. I watched him go. I watched him disappear into the hallway. I did not feel happy. I did not feel sad. I felt balanced. The ledger was clear. The debt was paid. I pressed the intercom button. Sarah. Yes, Miss Williams. Send the file on Chantel Williams to the FBI agent waiting in the lobby. Tell him she is landing in Zurich in 3 hours. Interpol can pick her up at the gate. Yes, ma'am. And Sarah. Yes. Order me some lunch. I am starving. I spun my chair around to face the window. Chicago looked beautiful. It looked like a city of opportunity. For those who knew how to count. Zurich. The word tasted like chocolate and banking secrecy on Sienna's tongue. She was sitting in the first-class lounge at O'Hare, sipping a glass of complimentary champagne. She was wearing oversized sunglasses and a cashmere travel set that she had bought with Marcus's credit card 3 hours ago. She looked like a woman with not a care in the world. She looked like a woman who had gotten away with it. I was watching her through the lens of a security camera feed on my tablet, sitting in the back of a town car parked just outside the terminal. My contact at the airport security office had been very helpful once I showed him the federal warrant that had just been issued. Boarding for Swiss International Airlines Flight 16 to Zurich will begin in 10 minutes. The announcement echoed over the speakers. Sienna stood up. She smoothed her hair. She picked up her carry-on bag. It was a Louis Vuitton duffel. Inside it, I knew there was $50,000 in cash and a jewelry roll filled with Wanda's stolen diamonds. She walked toward the gate. She handed her boarding pass to the agent. She smiled. It was that dazzling, innocent smile that had convinced Marcus to mortgage his future. The agent scanned the pass. The light on the console turned red. Sienna frowned. Is there a problem? She asked. Just a moment, Miss King, the agent said, tapping on her keyboard. The system is lagging. Sienna tapped her foot. She looked at her watch. She looked nervous. A predator knows when the wind changes. Then they appeared. 4 agents in windbreakers with those 3 terrifying letters printed on the back. FBI. They did not run. They did not shout. They moved with the quiet efficiency of apex predators closing in on a wounded gazelle. Vanessa King, one of the agents said, stepping in front of her. Or is it Chantel Williams today? Sienna froze. For a split second, I saw her calculate the odds of running. She looked at the jet bridge. She looked at the exit. Then she looked at the agents surrounding her. "I think there is a mistake," she said, her voice pitching up into that little girl register she used on Marcus. "I am just going on vacation. You are under arrest for wire fraud, bank fraud, and grand larceny," the agent said, snapping handcuffs onto her wrists. "You have the right to remain silent. I suggest you use it." People were staring. Phones were out. The princess of the Obsidian group was being led away in shackles, her cashmere shawl dragging on the floor. I closed the video feed on my tablet. "Driver, take me to the precinct," I said. "I have a statement to make." The atmosphere inside the police station was chaotic. It smelled of stale coffee and desperation. Wanda was already there, sitting on a metal bench in the holding area, still wearing her red dress from the night before. But now it was wrinkled and stained. She looked up when I walked in. Her eyes widened. "Tiana," she gasped, standing up and rushing to the bars. "Tiana, you have to help us. They have Marcus. They brought him in for questioning." I ignored her. I walked straight to the desk sergeant. "I am Tiana Williams," I said. "I am the forensic accountant who compiled the dossier on the Davis case. I believe Agent Miller is expecting me. Go right back." "Ms. Williams," the sergeant said, buzzing me through. I walked past Wanda. "Tiana, please," she screamed, reaching through the bars. "He is your husband. He is innocent. That woman tricked him." I kept walking. I entered the observation room. Through the one-way glass I saw Marcus. He was sitting at a metal table, his head in his hands. He was still wearing his dirty tuxedo. He looked like a broken toy. In the interrogation room next door sat Tiana. She looked different now. The charm was gone. Her face was hard and angular. She was leaning forward, talking fast. She was cutting a deal. "I did not sign the loan papers," she was saying to the agents. "Look at the documents. Look at the signatures. That is not my handwriting. That is Marcus Davis. We know he signed them," the agent said. "But you orchestrated the scheme." "I was a consultant," she lied smoothly. "I advised him on potential investments. He is a grown man. He made his own decisions. He wanted to impress me. He wanted to look rich. He told me he had the capital. How was I supposed to know he was defrauding his mother?" I watched Marcus in the other room. He could not hear her, but I could see the moment the reality hit him. An agent walked into his room carrying a file. "Your wife is very talkative, Mr. Davis," the agent said, sitting down. "She says you were the mastermind. She says you forced her to courier the cash. She says you coerced her into the scheme because you were desperate to pay off your debts." "What?" Marcus whispered. "That is a lie. She told me what to do. She told me about her father." "There is no father," the agent said. "And here is the problem, Marcus. Your signature is on the loan application. Your signature is on the wire transfer. Your signature is on the lease for the G-Wagon. Your name is on everything. She is a ghost. You are the paper trail." "But I did not read them," Marcus cried. "I just signed where she told me to." "Ignorance is not a defense," the agent said, closing the file. "You facilitated a $500,000 fraud. You laundered money through your accounts. You are looking at conspiracy and wire fraud. That is 5 to 10 years federal." Marcus stood up, knocking his chair over. "I want to see Tiana," he shouted. "She knows. She knows I am not smart enough to do this. She knows I am not a criminal." The agent looked at the glass mirror. He knew I was watching. "Your ex-wife is the one who provided the evidence, Marcus," he said. "She gave us the tracking data on the funds. She gave us the audio recordings of you conspiring to sell your mother's jewelry. She is the reason we are here." Marcus stared at the mirror. He looked right into my eyes, even though he could not see me. "Tiana," he whispered. "Why?" "Because you stole from me," I answered in the silence of the observation room. "Because you thought I was weak." The agent stood up. "Stand up, Mr. Davis. You are under arrest." They cuffed him. They pulled his arms behind his back and clicked the metal bracelets shut. The sound was final. It was the sound of a door closing on his life. I walked out of the observation room. I walked back into the hallway. Wanda was still clinging to the bars of the holding cell. When she saw me, her face crumpled. "Did you see him?" she asked. "Is he okay? Can we bail him out?" "Tiana, please, I have a little money stashed away. I can pay you." "You have nothing, Wanda," I said, stopping in front of her cell. "You signed your house over to me. You have no assets." And bail for federal wire fraud is not something you can pay with a stash in a cookie jar. You are evil, she hissed. You planned this. You let him do it. I let him be himself, I said. I let him chase the glitter. If he had been an honest man, Wanda, if he had been a loyal man, none of this would have worked. The scam only works on the greedy. Just then, the front doors of the station opened. Connor walked in. He looked exhausted. He was wearing jeans and a t-shirt. He held a large manila envelope in his hand. Behind him trailed Ebony. She looked frantic. She was pulling at his arm, trying to stop him. Connor, please, she was begging. Do not do this here, not now. Marcus is in trouble. Mama is in trouble. We need to stick together. Connor stopped in the middle of the lobby. He looked at Wanda in the cell. He looked at the door where they were leading Marcus away in handcuffs. Then he looked at me. He nodded a sad, respectful nod. Then he turned to Ebony. Stick together, he repeated, his voice shaking with suppressed rage. Stick together like you stuck with our children. What are you talking about? Ebony cried, looking around at the officers watching them. I went to the bank this morning, Connor said, holding up the envelope. I went to check the college fund, the savings account for the twins, the one we have been contributing to for 8 years. Ebony's face went pale. Connor, baby, I can explain. It is empty, Connor shouted. Zero balance. $40,000, Ebony. Gone. I loaned it to Mama. Ebony sobbed. She said she needed it for Marcus. She said Tiana would pay it back double. It was an investment, Connor. For the family. You stole from your children, Connor said, his voice dropping to a whisper that carried more weight than a scream. You took the money for their education and you gave it to a con artist because you wanted to look rich. You wanted to be part of the empire. I was going to put it back, she pleaded, grabbing his shirt. I swear. Get off me, Connor said, pushing her hands away. He reached into the envelope. He pulled out a stack of papers. They were stapled together. These are not bank statements, he said. These are divorce papers. Ebony gasped. No, Connor, you cannot. Not today. Today is the perfect day, Connor said. I am filing for full custody. I am filing for emergency protection of assets. I am done, Ebony. I am done with you. I am done with your mother. I am done with your brother. I am done with this toxic, delusional family. He shoved the papers into her chest. She grabbed them instinctively, clutching them like they were a lifeline when really they were an eviction notice from her life. I cannot live like this anymore, Connor said. I cannot live with people who eat their own young to feed their vanity. He turned to me. I am sorry, Tiana, he said. I should have listened to you sooner. You listened when it mattered. Connor, she said, go home. Take care of your kids. He walked out. He did not look back. Ebony stood in the middle of the police station holding her divorce papers, watching her husband leave. Then she turned to the holding cell where Wanda was watching with her mouth open. Mama, Ebony wailed. Mama, he left me. Wanda looked at her daughter. Then she looked at the empty hallway where Marcus had been taken. Then she looked at me. Fix this, she commanded me, her voice cracking. You are the accountant. Fix it, undo it, make the numbers work. I laughed. It was a genuine laugh this time. Not bitter, just final. The numbers balance, Wanda, I said. You borrowed against your future to pay for an illusion. Now the bill is due. The audit is complete. I turned and walked toward the exit. Where are you going? Wanda screamed. You cannot leave us here. We are family. I pushed open the heavy glass doors. The rain had stopped. The air smelled clean. I am not family. Wanda, I called back over my shoulder. I am the creditor, and I am closing the account. 3 months later, I sat in the witness box of the Federal District Court, my hands folded calmly on the polished wood railing. The air conditioning was humming, but sweat beaded on the foreheads of the 2 defendants sitting at the table to my left. Sienna, or rather Chantel Williams, looked nothing like the glittering queen of the launch party. Her hair extensions had been removed, leaving her natural hair pulled back in a severe ponytail. She wore an orange jumpsuit that washed out her complexion. She looked small. She looked ordinary. Marcus sat beside her. He had lost 20 pounds. His suit was ill-fitting, provided by his public defender. He would not look at me. He stared at his hands, which were cuffed to the table. Ms. Williams, the prosecutor, asked, adjusting his glasses. Can you explain to the jury how you trace the funds? I leaned into the microphone. My voice was steady. It was the voice of a woman who billed $500 an hour to find the truth. I utilized a forensic tracing algorithm to follow the wire transfer from the defendant Marcus Davis's account. I explained. The funds moved through 3 shell companies in the Cayman Islands before landing in an account controlled by the defendant, Chantel Williams. I also recovered deleted emails from the defendant's server, which outlined the scheme to defraud multiple investors, including Mr. Davis and his mother, Wanda Davis. Sienna's lawyer tried to object. He tried to paint her as a consultant who had simply made bad investment choices. He tried to say she was a victim of market volatility. I shut him down with a single piece of paper. This is a notarized affidavit, I said, holding up the document. In it, Ms. Williams admits to purchasing a fake passport on the black market 2 days before the loan was funded. This proves premeditation. She was never investing. She was packing. The jury took notes. They looked at Sienna with disgust. Then it was Marcus's turn. His lawyer tried to play the ignorance card. He argued that Marcus was a love-struck fool who had been manipulated by a master criminal. He argued that Marcus did not know what he was signing. I looked at Marcus. For a second, our eyes met. I saw the man I had married. I saw the man who used to make me coffee in the morning. I saw the man who had promised to love and cherish me. And then I saw the man who had called me boring, the man who had sold his mother's house for a G-Wagon. Mr. Davis is a sales director, I told the jury. He has an MBA. He manages contracts for a living. His signature appears on 27 separate documents related to this fraud. He signed the loan application. He signed the wire transfer authorization. He signed the lease agreement using a fake business tax ID. I paused, letting the weight of the evidence settle in the room. Ignorance is a defense for the uneducated, I said, cold as ice. Mr. Davis is not uneducated. He is greedy. He saw the red flags, and he chose to paint them green because he wanted the money. He wanted the lifestyle. He was not a victim. He was an accomplice. Marcus put his head down on the table. He knew it was over. The verdict came back in 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. The sentencing hearing was immediate due to the flight risk status of the defendants. The judge, a stern woman with no patience for white-collar crime, looked over her glasses at Sienna. Ms. Williams, you have preyed on the vulnerability of others for a decade, she said. You have destroyed lives. You have shown no remorse. I sentence you to 15 years in federal prison without the possibility of parole. Sienna screamed. She lunged toward the bench, but the bailiffs grabbed her. They dragged her out, kicking and screaming. It was the same energy she had used to demand $50,000 from a broke man, but now it was useless. Then the judge turned to Marcus. Mr. Davis, she said, her voice softer but no less firm. You allowed your vanity to destroy your family. You facilitated a crime that cost innocent people their savings. You are sentenced to 5 years in federal prison, followed by 3 years of probation. You are also ordered to pay restitution. Marcus did not scream. He just nodded. He stood up and let the bailiffs lead him away. As he passed the witness box, he whispered one word. Sorry. I did not respond. It was too late for sorry. Sorry does not pay the mortgage. Sorry does not fix the betrayal. I walked out of the courtroom. The hallway was crowded with reporters, but I ignored them. I had one more stop to make. One last piece of business to conclude. The next morning, I pulled up to the curb at 4582 Martin Luther King Drive. It was a beautiful sunny day. The birds were singing. The neighbors were out walking their dogs. It was eviction day. Wanda was standing on the sidewalk. She was surrounded by black garbage bags. That was it. That was her life. 40 years of collecting trinkets, 40 years of judging others, 40 years of thinking she was better than everyone else, and it all fit into 10 hefty bags. She was wearing the same red dress she had worn to the police station 3 weeks ago. It was stained and torn. She looked like a ghost. When she saw my car pull up, her face twisted into a mask of pure hatred. I drove my matte black Range Rover. I had bought it cash the day after the arrest. I liked the irony. I rolled down the window. You, she shrieked, pointing a shaking finger at me. You did this. You devil. You took my son. You took my house. Are you happy now? I looked at the house. The sheriff's deputies were just coming out the front door. They had done a sweep to make sure it was empty. They gave me a thumbs up. I got out of the car. I was wearing a white power suit and stilettos. I walked over to the edge of the property line. I was careful not to step onto the sidewalk where her bags were. That was public property. The grass behind me was mine. I did not take your son, Wanda, I said. The federal government took your son because he broke the law, and I did not take your house. You gave it to me. You signed the deed. You put it up as collateral for a loan you knew you could not repay. I thought we were going to be rich, she wailed. Tiana promised. Tiana was a liar, I said. And you knew it. But you did not care, because you thought you were going to get away with it. You thought you were going to be better than me. You thought you were going to look down on me from your mansion. She lunged at me but stopped short. She knew I had security. My driver was standing by the car, arms crossed. You are heartless, she spat. You have no soul. How can you do this to family? How can you leave an old woman on the street? Where am I supposed to go? I do not know, Wanda, I said. Maybe you can go to the Mandarin Oriental. I hear they have great room service. Oh, wait. You need a credit card for that. She fell to her knees, sobbing into her hands. It was a performance. It was always a performance with her. She wanted the neighbors to see. She wanted pity. But the neighbors were not looking with pity. They were looking with judgment. They knew what she had done. They knew she had tried to sell stolen jewelry. They knew she had raised a fraudster. You are evil, she whispered, looking up at me through her mascara-stained tears. You are a monster. I took a step closer. I looked down at her. You called me a failure, Wanda. You called me cheap. You told your son to leave me. You told him I was holding him back. I paused, letting the words sink in. You were right about one thing. I was holding him back. I was holding him back from rock bottom. And now that I let go, look where he landed. I signaled to the locksmith who was waiting by his van. Go ahead, Mike, I said. Change them all, front, back, and garage. Mike nodded and walked up the path to the front door. The sound of the drill cutting into the lock was loud in the quiet morning air. It was the sound of finality. Wanda flinched with every whine of the drill. You cannot do this, she screamed. This is my house. I raised my babies here. It is an asset, Wanda. I said, my voice devoid of emotion. It is a line item on a spreadsheet. And right now, it is a non-performing asset. I am going to flip it. I am going to renovate it. I am going to sell it to a nice young family who appreciates the value of $1. She stared at me, her mouth open. You are going to sell it? Yes, I said, and I am going to make a profit, a very healthy profit. She looked at the house, then back at me. The realization finally hit her. She was not just evicted, she was erased. Her history, her memories, her legacy, it was all being scrubbed clean by the woman she had despised. You won, she whispered. I lowered my sunglasses over my eyes. I did not win, Wanda, I said, turning back to my car. I just balanced the books. I got into the driver's seat. I started the engine. The air conditioning blasted cold air against my face. Wanda stood up. She grabbed a garbage bag in each hand. She looked like a bag lady. She looked like exactly what she was. You are cruel, she shouted over the hum of the engine. You are a cruel woman, Tiana. I pressed the button to roll down the window one last time. You are right, Wanda, I said. I am cruel. I paused, looking her up and down. But I am rich, and I am free, and you are homeless. I rolled up the window. I did not wait for her response. I put the car in drive and pulled away from the curb. I watched her in the rearview mirror. She was standing there screaming at the back of my car, her fists shaking in the air. She looked small. She looked insignificant. I turned the corner and she disappeared from view. I did not feel guilty. I did not feel sad. I reached over and turned up the radio. A song was playing. It was upbeat. It was a song about survival. I tapped my fingers on the steering wheel. I had a meeting in an hour. I had a new client. A big one. Life went on. And for the first time in a long time, I was driving the car. 1 year later, the view from the top of the world looked very different. I was no longer in the Rookery building. Nemesis Holdings had outgrown that space in 6 months. We were now occupying the top 3 floors of the Willis Tower. My office was a fortress of glass and steel overlooking the entire sprawl of Chicago. The city looked like a circuit board from up here, a complex grid of energy and money that I knew how to read better than anyone else. On the desk in front of me sat the fresh issue of Forbes magazine. It smelled like ink and victory. On the cover was a woman in a cream-colored power suit, standing with her arms crossed and a slight, dangerous smile on her lips. The headline read, "The Wolf Hunter." Inside the feature story detailed how Tiana Williams had revolutionized forensic accounting, turning it from a back-office function into a weapon of mass destruction against white-collar crime. I ran my hand over the glossy cover. It felt surreal. A year ago, I was sitting in a dark apartment wondering how I was going to survive the humiliation of my ex-husband's wedding. Now I was the person the FBI called when they could not find the money. My intercom buzzed. It was Sarah. She had been promoted to Director of Operations, and she ran my life with military precision. "Ms. Williams," she said. I have a call on line 2. It is from the Federal Correctional Institution in Oxford, Wisconsin. Do you want me to decline it? I paused. Oxford. That was where Marcus was serving his time. He had been transferred there after his sentencing. Minimum security, but still a cage. I looked at the clock. I had 10 minutes before my dinner reservation. "Put it through, Sarah," I said. The line clicked. There was a moment of static, then the automated voice I had heard only once before during the trial. "This is a prepaid call from an inmate at a federal facility. To accept, press 1. I pressed 1. Tiana. The voice was thin. It sounded older. It lacked the bass, the boom, the arrogance that Marcus used to wear like a second skin. It sounded like a man who had spent 12 months wearing a uniform that did not fit and eating food that had no taste. "Hello, Marcus," I said. I leaned back in my chair, swiveling slightly to look at the lake. "I saw the magazine," Marcus said. His voice cracked. "One of the guards had it in the break room." He let me look at it. "You look beautiful, Tiana. You look expensive." "I am expensive," Marcus, I said. "My hourly rate has doubled since you last saw me." "I miss you," he whispered. I did not say anything. I just let the silence stretch out over the hundreds of miles between us. I let him sit in it. "It is hard here, Tiana." He continued the words, tumbling out in a rush. "It is cold. The other guys, they do not respect me. They call me names. I just wanted to hear your voice. I wanted to hear someone who knows me. Someone who knows I am a good man, deep down." "You are not a good man, Marcus," I said calmly. "You are a man who sold his mother's house for a lease on a car. You are a man who tried to defraud the woman who paid your bills for 5 years. That is who you are. Prison did not change you. It just removed your options." "I have changed," he insisted. "I have had a lot of time to think. I think about us. I think about the Sunday mornings. I think about the way you used to make grits. I took it for granted. I took you for granted." He sniffed. I could hear the tears in his voice. He was crying. Again. Marcus was always crying when he needed something. "I still love you, Tiana," he said. "I never stopped. Even with Sienna. I was just lost. But you were always my home. Can't we start over? When I get out in 4 years, can't we try again?" I looked at the magazine on my desk. I looked at the woman on the cover. She looked strong. She looked untouchable. "Marcus," I said, my voice ice cold. "You do not love me. You never loved me. You love the safety net. You love the fact that I fixed your credit score. You love that I paid the mortgage while you played dress up." I paused, letting the words sink in. "And right now, you do not miss me. You miss the comfort. You miss the access. You are looking at that magazine cover, and you are seeing dollar signs. You are seeing a way out of your misery. You love my wallet, Marcus. That is all it ever was." "No," he protested. "That is not true." "It is true," I said. "And it is tragic. Because you had it all. You had a woman who would have walked through fire for you, but you wanted a trophy. You wanted sparkle. Well, you chased the sparkle right off a cliff. I reached for the button to end the call. And Marcus, I added one last thing. It is too bad you love my wallet, because that wallet has a new owner, and he does not share. Wait, Marcus shouted. Who? Who is he? Goodbye, Marcus. I pressed the button. The line went dead. I sat there for a moment listening to the hum of the server room next door. I did not feel sad. I did not feel angry. I felt like I had just closed a file on a case that had dragged on for too long. Archived. Done. I stood up and walked to the coat rack. I grabbed my trench coat. It was Burberry. Another gift to myself. My office door opened. A man walked in. He was tall, broad-shouldered, and he was wearing a suit that fit him perfectly. He had gray eyes and a smile that made the room feel warmer. Damon King. He was a venture capitalist I had met 6 months ago during an investigation into a tech startup. He was brilliant. He was kind, and he had his own money. Real money. The kind that did not need to shout. Ready to go? He asked, leaning against the doorframe. The reservation is at 7, and you know how Chef Jean gets if we are late. I smiled. It was a real smile. A smile that reached my eyes. I am ready, I said. He walked over and kissed me on the cheek. He smelled like sandalwood and integrity. Who was on the phone, he asked, noticing the light on my console fading. Just a reminder of where I came from, I said, slipping my arm through his. Just a bad investment, I finally wrote off. We walked out of the office together. We walked past the rows of analysts, past the awards on the wall, past the life I had built from the ashes of my marriage. As we stepped into the elevator, I thought about Wanda. She was living in a state-subsidized apartment, now working part-time at a grocery store. She had tried to call me once to ask for money. I had sent her a link to a budgeting app. I thought about Tiana. She was in a maximum security facility in Florida. My sources told me she was running a cigarette smuggling ring from her cell. At least she was consistent. And I thought about Connor. He was doing well. He had divorced Ebony, gotten custody of the kids, and started his own engineering firm. We had lunch once a month. He was the only family I had kept. The elevator descended smoothly. I looked at my reflection in the polished brass doors. I saw the scar from where I had cut my finger throwing the tea set off the balcony. It was faint now, barely visible. They say revenge is a dish best served cold. That is what the poets say. They think revenge is about passion, about fury, about making someone suffer. But they are wrong. Passion fades. Fury burns out. And making someone suffer takes too much energy. For me, revenge was not about emotion. It was about accounting. It was about balancing the ledger. It was about ensuring that every action had an equal and opposite reaction. Marcus wanted a dream life funded by fraud. I gave him a reality check funded by the law. Sienna wanted to steal a future she did not earn. I gave her a future she deserved behind bars. Wanda wanted to trade her dignity for status. I left her with neither. I squeezed Damon's arm as the elevator doors opened into the lobby. The air was crisp and cool. The city was waiting. Revenge is not a dish, I thought as we walked out into the Chicago night. Revenge is a transaction, and for me it is best served with receipts, with a paper trail, and with the absolute crushing weight of the law. I checked my watch. 7 o'clock. Right on time. The end. This story illustrates that true power lies in silence, strategy, and self-worth, not in loud displays of fake wealth. Tiana's journey proves that being underestimated is actually a tactical advantage. While her ex-husband chased the illusion of success through greed and fraud, Tiana built an empire on competence and integrity. The crucial lesson is that you should never let others define your value. When faced with betrayal, do not react with emotion. Respond with calculation. Financial literacy is a weapon, and the best revenge is simply outgrowing the people who tried to hold you back, letting the law handle the rest. If you enjoyed Tiana's cold and calculated takedown, hit the like button and subscribe for more stories of justice. Let me know in the comments. Would you have helped Marcus at the end, or did he get exactly what he deserved?